We ready, Larry? Okay. This meeting is being held in person at the Huntersville Recreation Center located at 11836 Fairhoff Road and virtually via live stream on our Facebook page. The public has been invited to attend and comment during our public comments or during any public hearings, one in person at the Huntersville Rec Center and two by telephonic communication in accordance with instructions sent to persons who have registered with the town clerk no later than 3 p.m. April 19th. The public may also submit comments by email to the town clerk. Emailed comments received no later than 3 p.m. today will be included in the record of the meeting. For public hearings, you have 24 hours to send to jpierson@huntersville.org, or you can call and 704-766-2202. So I think we're all here now. So we'll start our meeting with a moment of silence, so please join me. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thank you. We have several different times that people can speak today, and we have one person signed up. Mr. Lukowski, are you here? Okay. So you're an adjacent landowner to the property? Okay, great. So we'll call you up when it's the appropriate time. Okay. Let's see. Mayor's Luncheon tomorrow will be at Spare Time. Ryan McDaniel will be our guest speaker, our Lake Norman EDC Executive Director, and we'll be in the front room at Spare Time, not in the back room, so we'll be in the restaurant. The MTC, Metropolitan Transit Commission, is meeting on April 28th. Budget discussions will be going on at the time. In addition, I've asked several questions about the Gold Line and how costs have been transmitted from Katz to Charlotte. I've asked for that for a couple of years now to ensure that only Charlotte is paying for the Gold Line costs. In addition, Katz is receiving $88 million from the federal government as part of the Relief Act, and that would be $44 million over 2 years, and I've asked for whether or not each town can qualify to receive a portion of that for our transportation needs. And then finally, there are 3 other communities that use CATS service, and I've asked for a better accounting of what the costs for those services are, because especially in the time of COVID, when there's been very little passenger or ridership, the CATS system or the Mecklenburg County taxpayers have been paying half of the cost for their service for citizens outside our county, and I don't think that's particularly fair to our citizens. On a more serious note, if you have not heard, Colonial Pipeline came out with a press release on Friday. You always have to be wary of press releases on Friday. And due to some new technology and new testing over the course of the last 45 to 60 days, and I'm giving you my layman's term, they've found that there is what they call product, which we call gasoline, in a deeper part of the earth, and it's actually below the water table. And this will definitely increase the amount of product/gasoline that leaked in their projections. I've spoken with a spokesperson from Colonial actually this morning, and they are supposed to submit on April 26th additional information to North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. And I asked, well, when are you coming to talk to us? And we meet on the 1st and 3rd Monday in May. And he said he would get back to me after today. So hopefully we'll have them here in person. And hopefully we can also have North Carolina DEQ, because they also responded on Friday. And I want to read you the specific, well, maybe I should read you the specific quote. And this is from the new secretary at the DEQ, and I quote, "It is unacceptable that for 8 months Colonial Pipeline has been unable to provide a reliable accounting of the amount of gasoline released into this community. We will take all necessary steps and exercise all available authority to hold Colonial Pipeline accountable for what has become one of the largest gasoline spills in the country." So obviously it's not an exact science when something leaks and goes into the ground, but if we look back in August, which is still less than a year away from, it was only 60,000 gallons that they projected, and as I was talking to one of the commissioners earlier, you know, that is pretty far off from where we're going to be, unfortunately. So we'll get hopefully somebody here on our May 3rd meeting, or our May 17th, I think it is. On a positive note, I did meet with the Rammer Creek conservation donors, the Bragg family and Mr. Burton, on Friday. And coincidentally, when I was meeting with them, I got a call from Colonial Pipeline because we were talking about that, so that was ironic. And we have deemed this highway to be a scenic, historic byway or highway, and they should have signs up in the next month or so, I believe, in May. It's Macaulay Road. I'd probably encourage everybody to take a ride out there. I'd never been down there. It's a beautiful road. The good news is there are 750 acres that will remain as they are today, so that should counterbalance some of the additional development that's going on in our community. And there's a lot of nature out there, and it's a nice ride out there. So I would encourage everybody, when they have some time, to take a short trip on Macaulay Road, which is off of 73, and also Huntersville Concord. So that's all I have. Commissioner Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Greenway Trails and Bikeway Commission will meet tomorrow evening, and this time in person, at North Mecklenburg Park. That meeting starts at 6 p.m. In addition to the regular agenda, they'll be doing some trail cleanup. The Parks and Recreation Commission will also meet in person this coming Wednesday right here, except for outside, at 6:30. So they'll be meeting under the shelter there. Also from Parks and Rec, I don't know how many people get the newsletter or check our website, but a couple of interesting things coming up, and you can see all the different events. But this Thursday, many people know there's a tunnel under 77, which will be hooked up by Greenways on either side. So this Sunday they're doing a community engagement on the public art that will be a part of that tunnel. So I encourage you to, if you have some opinions on it, or at least investigate it. The Music and Arts Festival will be May 2nd from 2 to 6 in Veterans Park, and there are many, many other events. The Huntersville Regional Chamber's monthly member meeting will be held virtually tomorrow starting at noon. Check your website or email for details. From Visit Lake Norman, the International Senior Softball Association's Eastern Spring National Tournament returns April 30th through the 1st at Bradford Park. 71 teams from 10 states are currently registered. Only 13 of those 71 teams are local, with teams traveling from as far away as New York. And then I'd like to give a shout out to the new management at Berkdale, the property managers at Berkdale. Many of you know that they're currently under new management, and they've been making improvements and doing some upgrades. For those of you who have noticed the road that's been closed down for a year coming off of Lindholm, they're working on that, so hopefully that'll get fixed. And then they're adding many events, and one of them they've added is a concert series called Live Under the Oaks, and it happens on Friday nights through the summer. In addition to the live music, they've got a bar set up, and they will actually allow you to order from local restaurants and actually bring the food to you while you listen to your music. What's even cooler, and usually I hear Mr. Munger talk about this, but the proceeds from each of those concerts will go to a local charity. And last week, they donated the proceeds to Angels and Sparrows, which I think makes them a great community partner, and we look forward to other great things happening there. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Phillips?
This is weird going opposite.
Try this.
On April 7th, 338 people, including myself, received their first COVID vaccine at the Waymer Center, located in historic Pottstown. This would not have been possible without Commissioners Pat Cotham, Elaine Powell, and Lee Altman addressing the concerns the community had. Thank you is simply not enough to share how grateful I am for Diane Means of Ada Jenkins, Michelle Blumenthal, Ruby Houston, and Barbara Randolph from North Mecklenburg Economic Mobility Collaborative, Sarah Fortner of Caterpillar Ministries, Debbie O'Hanley of Hope House, Janelle Harris and Verona Wynn from Pottstown, Mecklenburg County Park staff, the staff of the Waymer Center, and the Mecklenburg County Public Health staff for making this event what it was. And if you did receive your vaccine at that event, you will be able to get your second dose at the Waymer Center on April 28th at the same time your first vaccine was at. And then something fun happened in our community last week. Last Tuesday, my dad, who's a former commissioner, Danny, he got his hair cut live on Facebook, and it sounds really silly and novel, but my friend Kristen Hampton, who does the Good News, she cut my dad's hair on Facebook Live, and they were raising money for Angels and Sparrows. My dad thought they were gonna raise $100. Kristen thought $5,000. As of like 5 minutes ago, they're $100 away from raising $38,000 for Angels and Sparrows. And what's so amazing about this is that it's not people local to here donating. There are literally people almost on every continent who have contributed to the soup kitchen in Huntersville. And I think that's probably one of the best signs of humanity and how good the world is, that someone who doesn't live here cares about our soup kitchen. And that's all I have.
Did they shave his head?
No, it was just a cut. It's the nicest haircut he ever
I would
got.
have paid for that.
World's most expensive haircut, maybe, who knows, but yeah. 38,000, which is around 24 to 26% of the meals that they serve annually will be covered because of a 30-minute haircut on Facebook.
That's great.
Commissioner Munger?
I like your random order here. I had an opportunity to meet with members of Sustain Charlotte last Thursday. We discussed several transportation issues for Huntersville, including working to expand CAT service, and I look forward to working with them in the future. And as always, if you have an opportunity to give, please consider supporting our nonprofits such as Angels and Sparrows, who apparently have a lot of money now, Caterpillar Ministries, Bags of Hope, and Ada Jenkins.
Okay.
That is it.
Commissioner Hines?
Pretty short. We have a CRTPO meeting this Wednesday. We'll be going over three things: 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The Roadway Ranking Review Committee is going to be presenting us roadway candidate project submittals. We'll vote on that later, probably in the summer. Then we have the CRTPO strategic plan, where they prepared a strategic plan to establish a proactive planning direction for CRTPO. So we'll be looking at their mission statement, vision statements for the upcoming year. We'll be voting on that sometime in the summer of 2021. And then beyond 77 corridor study, will just present to us kind of their latest on the I-77 corridor. So that meeting is this Wednesday. You can tune in. That is, will be virtual for that. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, great. Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome everybody for coming out tonight. It's great, again, to be in person. From the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, this Thursday, April 22nd, from 4:30 to 7, the Chamber will be hosting a ribbon cutting at Nevco Sanitation, located at 11517 McCord Road in Huntersville. please bring a mask. If you have any income tax papers that you want shredded, this Saturday at Veterans Park, there will be a shredding event from 9 to 12:30. From Public Safety, the Huntersville Fire Department is catching up on a lot of stuff they couldn't do due to the restrictions from the virus, but every inch of fire hose in the town of Huntersville has been inspected. Chief Tottoli said that they are back on track of getting their annual medical physicals, and their job-related physical agility test is done this month, and every member of the Huntersville Fire Department has to pass that agility test. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Water Department has given the okay for the fire department to start testing hydrants again. So if you see firefighters out there running the water fire hydrants, they're just testing the pressure on those things. The Huntersville Police Department, since our last meeting, the police department has had our community officers out in the community. They've collected food and provided clothing for a family that was in need. In addition, they paid utility bills for some of the families in need in the Huntington Green community. They've met with the Boy Scouts. They provided a community awareness event for Tanner's Creek. The Huntersville Police Department Traffic Unit is also partnering with Safe Kids Charlotte and North Mech Exchange Club for a cleanup day that will take place in Huntington Green in the month of June. And the police department and the town, and I'm going to ask the town manager during his comments to possibly give us an update on Huntersville Elementary School. So they have been putting in some time to see if we can't alleviate some of those issues with the CMS. And finally, Officer John Hicks will be retiring May 1st, and John has put 21 years in the service of the town, and I'd like to say congratulations to Officer Hicks for his service to the town, and thank you for all he's done. And Mr. Mayor, that's my report.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Bales?
I'm up. All right. So in regards to my EDC report, the EDC is currently working 37 projects. Out of the 37 active projects, 26 are Huntersville's. I'm excited to say that we're going to see new businesses moving into Berkdale, whether it's Sephora, the new juice bar, etc. So look for new and exciting businesses coming our way. In addition to that, we're seeing movement into the new North Cross Commerce Center. I believe that's the one off Jamesburg, if memory serves. And we've got some new industry moving in there. We've also got some new industry looking and moving into Brighton as well. So Huntersville continues to be a place where business wants to do business, and I find that to be very exciting for us. It helps us keep our tax rate low, manage that tax base, so I'm excited to bring that news. In addition to that, we are currently working with our local schools and making plans for the next school year in regards to workforce development. We are bringing opportunities to schools like Business Insights, where a professional volunteers their time to come in and speak to a class, a career and technical class. So an example of that is in February, we just hosted one, and that was a project management class at Huff High School. And we brought in a professional from MSC, and they spent an hour talking about processes in regards to project management. So these students who have been learning about project management for the last year had an opportunity to sit down with a professional in that business sector, and they were able to ask incredible questions. I love the questions when it was taught. They were saying, what about, how do you work this process over that process? And what does it look like if you were managing a project that's maybe 6 months long versus how do you manage a project that's 5 years long? And how do you stay on track? And those were the questions that were being asked, and it was great dialogue. The professional enjoyed their time there. The students and the teacher appreciated them greatly, and 100% of those students said, you need to add this to the curriculum next year. So we're going to be continuing to work with our business community and with our area schools to provide that opportunity to develop their workforce development opportunities and skill sets. I'm not going to be shy to say that if you have a business out there and you're interested in having an intern or an apprenticeship, please see me, because the work that we're doing, we certainly can get you qualified students and applicants. In addition to that, we will continue to work through the next school year and making sure that we offer a variety of opportunities for students. As far as schools are concerned, I think Commissioner Boone referenced it. Staff is continuing to work with Huntersville Elementary to address the carpool line and the backups that are currently happening there around that school. And so I'll be interested to hear the update from Mr. Roberts. I'm just making sure that all of my notes are covered. I guess last but not least, I had an opportunity last week to participate with the Huntersville 101 class. If you have not had an opportunity to take that class, I would highly encourage it. I would like to thank Mr. Williams for facilitating that class. We met this past session, was right here, and we got to hear from Parks and Rec, and got to take a tour of HFFA across the street. It was a wonderful event, and I sincerely know that the residents who are participating are getting a lot out of that course. So hopefully we can add more, right? Add additional opportunities for for parents and residents to get involved. With that, Mr. Mayor, I think I've covered everything other than to say thank you all for being here tonight.
Okay, all right. I know there's at least one question for staff. You want to give us an update on our meeting today with Huntersville Elementary?
Yes, so as everyone knows, obviously we've been trying to address the Huntersville Elementary School traffic issues, and it's been exacerbated this year, obviously with COVID. You're having to test kids before they get out of the car, ask them questions, so that just slows down the line tenfold, as you can imagine. But they have released some of that so they don't have to do the temperature checks, et cetera. What I would say for the morning traffic, I think that's solved now. Well, I say solved. It's never going to be solved unless you can literally put every car on the campus. And the school was built, what, 50s, 60s, or whatever. So they're not set up like the newer schools today. But one change they've done in the morning is they're snaking it through the bottom lot now. So the Principal Rupenthal has done a great job on getting out to the parents, saying, look, don't come an hour beforehand to stack up in the neighborhood. Come 10 minutes beforehand. So email went out on that for the morning session and afternoon session too. But for the morning drop-off, instead of where they used to just have it in the top lot and stack, or middle lot and stack 6 cars. I know it's going to be hard unless you are familiar with it. Now in the middle lot, they're stacking 12 cars and then snaking it back through the bottom lot. So you're getting a ton more cars on site, and you're getting a lot more cars dropping off at one time, and then you let those 12 go instead of 6, and also notifying parents, which they have, don't be lining up, an hour beforehand. And the police are out there helping, and they're coning off areas to make sure folks are snaking through. So my understanding from talking to Major Graham and Lieutenant Lotza and talking to the actual principal and assistant principal and the various CMS folks, the morning is you're going to see a considerable difference there. I think they said they cleared it out, everything out in like 20 minutes, which is typically takes probably 30 or so minutes. Afternoon, we still got work to do. Yeah, we met this afternoon, actually. They are going to allow a few more cars, but they still are doing the afternoon pickups by the gym, where they used to do it 4 or 5 years ago, just like the morning. They would pick them up at the middle lot and snake them through the bottom lot. So we've got some more work to do on that. I think we can make some small changes here in the next week, to stack some more down below. But we've got to work with the principal about seeing if they're an option to go back to where it was before. because the kids are now being housed, for lack of better terms, in the gym for pickup. And so there you're picking right up in front of the gym where they used to be picked up in the middle lot at the school entrance. So some more work to do there. Mayor was at the meeting with me and some of the police officers, but they have made definitely big progress in the morning, but more work to do in the afternoon. Is that a fair assessment, Mayor?
Yeah, and what I'll say is just from my observation today, so you had 3 police officers standing there at 2:30, I guess, and most people are already getting there. So they basically turned those people away, and they went to Holbrook Park, all parked there for a while. But then you saw that it was starting to stack up. They were just hiding a little bit further down. So, from my point of view, it's education, trying to get the kids to take the bus, feel comfortable, eventually feel comfortable, take the bus home. And I think there's probably a better way of doing it in terms of, they have a teacher with a sheet of paper with all 250 cars or kids that are going to be picked up, and she has to look through the sheet, pick the kid, call in, get that kid to come out 250 times. So it's not really the most efficient. So when my kids were going there, and I guess up till about 3 or 4 years ago, if you remember just that walkway coming out of Huntersville, that's where all the first grade, second grade, and all that, and then parents came and picked their kids up. So we'll continue to tweak it. I jokingly said we improved it by 3 cars today. So we got 3 more cars into the parking lot. So we'll keep working on it. All right. Any other staff questions? Okay. Now, I don't have anybody else here to speak, but I remember I talked to somebody a couple weeks ago that said they might come and attend and wanted to speak, but nobody else? Okay. All right. How about the agenda? Motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as published.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, great. We have a couple of public hearings. Do we have anybody from the planning board here tonight? You want to stand up and introduce yourselves?
Yes, Frank Gannon.
Okay, great. All right, we'll open up our first public hearing, which is item 8A, conduct a public hearing on petition R21-05, a request by Palilla Holdings LLC to amend petition R08-12, approximately half acre at the southeast corner of Statesville Road and Richard Hatchett Road from Neighborhood Center Conditional District to Neighborhood Center Conditional District for the purpose of revising the building elevation. Mr. Richards, good seeing you again.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I have to do this every time. I want to disclose that the applicant donated to my campaign, but it will not impact my views on this project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Richards?
Good. Good evening, Brian Richards with the planning staff. I'd like to enter my staff report to the record. I'm going to be pretty brief this evening. As the mayor said, this is just to amend the commercial site plan there for building elevations. Back in 2008, under R08-12, Spectrum Hearing came in for a commercial building for the use of office. That was rezoned from neighborhood residential to neighborhood center conditional district. You can see I've got the property outlined there in red. Just to the north, you've got the, for lack of a better term, the Shomars Shopping Center, and then just to the west, you have Papa John's Pizza. To the south, there's some single-family residential as well as a church. And to the east, there's some other single-family residential. The site plans here are almost identical. You'll notice that the building footprints are slightly different. That's because the building has changed. The zoning will stay the same, and the uses will stay the same. As you can see here on the left-hand side is the proposed elevations from Mr. Palillo and his holding company, and on the right is the approved ones from 08-12. We feel that these are in keeping of the neighborhood and in the area, and the staff would support the change in elevations. Just note that the building is slightly smaller in the newer revision. The original was just over 4,500 square feet, and this is just over 4,000. That being said, excuse me, the 2040 community plan supports this for land use policies LU 6.2 as well as EV 2.1. In the town core, we encourage a mixture of uses, including businesses in residential areas in this core right along Highway 21. In considering the proposed rezoning petition, R2105, Symphony Park Sales Center, staff recommends approval. The amendment being consistent with the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan, specifically policies LU 6.2, EV 2.1. It is reasonable in the public interest to amend the zoning ordinance because the rezoning is consistent with the existing development patterns in the area, and the revised building elevations are in keeping with the other developments in the same area. And I'm here to answer any questions as well as the applicant.
Commissioner Bales?
I just have one question. How long, so if this is a sales center, how long does the applicant, or do you know, how long the anticipated use will be for a sales center? Or will, because I would imagine at some point the sale will.
I can tell you what I've been told from the applicant. Would you like to speak to that?
You got to come up to the mic, Mr. Colillo.
I just would hate to see it sitting vacant after it's.
Sure. It'll be a sales and leasing office, and then it'll convert over to a real estate leasing office.
Okay,
So it'll always be maintained as real estate.
perfect, thank you.
Commissioner Walsh?
Just a minor one. I didn't catch the building size difference. What was the old
The
versus?
original was just over 4,500. This one's 4,141, so it's a slightly smaller building.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay. No other questions? We'll close that public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next public hearing to open up is item 8B, conduct a public hearing concerning the economic development agreement between the town of Huntersville and Newtek and the granting of incentive payments. Ms. Sloop?
Yes, so this is more of a procedural formality required by the North Carolina General Statutes at 158-7.1. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
No oh, sorry, I was over there first. Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, and this is a question that Jackie might be able to answer. What is the average income for Huntersville?
I've Googled, and the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says it's for 48,923 in the most recent year available, which would be 2019.
Okay, and the average job that we generate, or that was generated by this one was 54,819 according to this? That's great. That's it.
Commissioner Bass?
I believe that 54,819 and 20 cents is actually an increase over what the original incentive.
It's over what is required in the agreement, correct?
Okay, just double checking that, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll close that public hearing, and we'll go to other business. Item 9A, consider adopting resolution to approve Newtek incentive agreement. Is there a motion, Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution approving the incentive agreement between Newtek and the town of Huntersville.
A second.
Commissioner Bales? Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? No? Okay. We'll go to item 9B, consider approving budget amendment for reimbursement to Newtek in the amount of $11,621.27 per the incentive agreement with the use of the general fund balance. Please silence your cell phones. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Bone?
I don't know if Jack was
We
going to
don't
say
have a
something.
presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Then I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget amendment for the reimbursement to Newtek in the amount of $11,621.27 per the incentive agreement with the use of general fund balance.
Second.
Commissioner Bales? Any discussion, Commissioner Bales?
Just a quick question. It's been I'm trying to remember the last time an incentive agreement where they've met all of the qualifications. Is this the first one we've had in a while?
I've been here 5 years, and the only agreement I remember us paying out on is this new tech agreement.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor? And seeing none opposed, that motion passes. All right. Next is 9C, which is a quasi-judicial hearing, conduct an evidentiary hearing and consider decision on Trails End subdivision sketch plan. Bear with me. This hearing is a quasi-judicial hearing on the application submitted for Trails End subdivision sketch plan. Quasi-judicial hearings are evidentiary in nature. The board must base quasi-judicial decisions upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. Material evidence is evidence that shows that the standards will or will not be met. Speculative, irrelevant, or vague evidence, non-expert opinion, this is something that requires an expert, and non-accepted hearsay evidence will likely not be competent evidence. Quasi-judicial hearings are constrained by the standards in the ordinance and the facts presented. Only parties with standing, including the applicant, local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages, have the right to participate fully in the hearing. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not personal preferences or opinions. Certain topics will require expert witnesses, including projections about impacts on property values and traffic impacts. Even though the board may rely on other evidence, it is not objected to. If it is not objected to, the board should rely on competent, relevant, reliable evidence in making its decision. The board will currently recognize the applicant as a party. Are there any other persons who believe they are standing? I think Mr. Lucas, please come up. Usually adjacent property owners will have standing. Will each party tell me if they have any witnesses they intend to call? Okay. All right. Disclosures. The parties in this case are entitled to an impartial board. A board member may not participate in this hearing if he or she has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close relationship with the affected person. Does any board member have any partiality or disclose or conflict of interest to offer at tonight's meeting? Okay. Seeing none. The parties in this case have rights for any ex parte communication to be disclosed. Ex parte communication is any communication about the case outside of the hearing. That may email communications as well as conversations with party staff or the general public. Does any board member have any ex parte communications to disclose about this case? Okay. Based on the fact that there are no disclosures we've heard from the board concerning partiality and ex parte communications, does any member of the board or any party to this matter have an objection to the board's participation in this hearing? Okay. Mr. Luke, please state your name and address for us.
Mike Lukeski, 11600 Trails End Lane.
Okay. Mr. Bowman?
Nate Bowman, 205 South Church Street, Huntersville.
Mr. Richards?
Brian Richards with the Huntersville Planning Staff, 105 Gilead Road.
Okay. All right. We'll swear you all in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Before we begin, well, I already did that, sorry. Present your evidence.
Thank you.
We'll call you back, Mr. Lucas.
Good evening, Brian Richards for the planning staff. At this time, I'd like to enter my staff report to the record. What we have before you this evening is the Trails End residential community. It's an 81 single-family home subdivision presented at the intersections of Asbury Chapel and Trails End. The property is currently zoned transitional residential. It's surrounded, all the properties surrounding it are zoned transitional residential. As you can see, here's an aerial. It's primarily wooded with two small buildings on the property. current use is single-family and vacant. The proposed density is 1.37 units per acre. As we know, the transitional district allows for up to 1.5 units per acre. The development is proposing 43.7% open space. The requirement is 38%. The urban open space being provided would be a pocket park in just next to that starred area across the street, as well as a private greenway along the bottom. Mr. Bowman is also going to reserve the area along the swim buffer to the south of in this picture, the south, which would be the west of the project, for the county, for a public greenway at some point in time. The existing tree canopy is 57 acres, which is about 96% of the property. They're proposing to save 22.76 acres, which is roughly just under 40% of the property. 35% is required. There are no heritage trees on site. The developer is proposing to save 60 specimen trees, which is just almost 60%, which the requirement is 35%. The overall open space for the subdivision will be 25.77 acres. This property is topographically challenged. You can see the compact design in this. Due to that challenging topography, the applicant is requesting three block length modifications, 2 for roadway block lengths, one on block 4, which is 817 feet, the other on the southern part of block 4, which is 1,743 feet. Additionally, Road C is a cul-de-sac. Typically, those are roughly around 350 feet in length. They're asking for 517 feet. Due to that, the topography and the rough terrain out there, staff is in support of all 3 of these modifications. Interestingly enough, we typically don't get into this. There is a protected sunflower across the street from the proposed subdivision, the Schweinitz sunflower, and the National Heritage GIS overlay indicates that area was just the larger pink area blob, for lack of a better term, across the street. We have had, Mr. Bowman has provided letters from a private environmental service as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, has indicated that this subdivision will have no impact on this. You can see the area indicated on the right-hand side is where the Schweinitz sunflower exists today. That was protected, and recently Mecklenburg County has purchased the land to the east of this property, so that will be protected in perpetuity. Any roadway improvements needed for Trails End, we will make sure we'll work with DOT to keep those sunflowers in good shape, and we'll keep whatever measures are needed for that. The project is located on the 2040 plan. It's located in what's identified as the residential edge, which recommends projects under 1.5 units per acre at 1.37. We're consistent with that. I will bear everybody the brunt of not reading all the policies that this is consistent with. They're here listed on the screen as well as my staff report. The Eastfield Road Small Area Plan, this is located in Area 1, subsection C. It states that until Hambright Road is widened, that we should stay consistent with the TR district at 1.5 units per acre, so we're consistent with this small area plan as well. Surrounding developments, Olmsted is at 0.95 units per acre. Chapel Grove to the south is 1.4, so we're consistent with at 1.37. Staff recommendations, we find that the application is complete. The request is in keeping with the spirit and intent of the town's future land use plans as mentioned above. The hills, sorry, that's a typo. The Trails End sketch plans can be supported by staff subject to the following: the 2 block length modifications, the cul-de-sac length modification. We had an urban space design discrepancy. Mr. Bowman has provided that design for us. We're satisfied with that. It was in your staff report, so we're taking that point out. We still have not heard from NCDOT on the final requirements and the upgrades to Trails End. We will work with the applicant and the NCDOT to ensure that those are done. All transportation comments are addressed. Let's see what else. Also, the verification of Road B can legally connect to Asbury Chapel when the future thoroughfare is built. That will be sometime in the future. And all other plan comments are addressed. This subdivision is consistent and complies with all applicable requirements once the conditions above are listed. Staff recommends approval of the proposed subdivision sketch plan subject to the block length modifications that are approved. Urban open space designs that have been submitted, and Road C meets the subdivision ordinance. NCDOT and staff transportation comments are addressed. and all of the plan comments are addressed. At the planning board hearing on March 23rd, planning board recommended unanimously approval with the following conditions. And I'm here to answer any questions, as well as Mr. Bowman.
Commissioner Hines?
If
Yes, sir.
Road B is not approved to be connect to Asbury Chapel at its current location, would the applicant need to come back in front of this
They would.
board?
What they've decided to do is they have offered, I can get that, unfortunately, I can't see my, I'll be pointing. I'm trying to find a map that would help us real quick. That is in the upper right-hand corner. That will connect, they're gonna dedicate the right-of-way out to there. Due to the fact that we don't know where the thoroughfare is actually gonna be aligned through this area, due to the sharp curve in Asbury Chapel Road, the applicant has been generous in giving us a large swath for the right-of-way, which is atypical, but as you can see, there's no development in that area. So we're still trying to communicate to DOT is what future intersection designs might happen there, so we can tighten that up when we get to preliminary plans. But at this time, he's given us a very generous right-of-way dedication in that area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richards.
Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, I see that no TIA was required for this development because it was below the town's threshold for requiring a study.
That's correct.
Can you tell me what the trip generation numbers were for this development and what the town's threshold is?
I cannot, but we didn't have to do one. I do not.
So Commissioner Munger, remember, this is quasi-judicial, so we have to focus on
Yep.
the issues of lot length waiver, basically.
I don't know where Mr. Trott is. He did the analysis for this, but it did not meet the initial chip generation.
Okay. That's it.
Any
No,
other
that's fair.
questions?
I apologize.
How about the applicant? Questions of the applicant?
No, I have
Commissioner Bales? Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Boone?
Sorry.
I got Boone.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bales.
Thank you. Just a quick question in regards to the Lowry's Environmental and Ecological Services report.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to the sunflower, is that swath right there along Trails End, is that the only place it's located?
To my knowledge, I've looked on the GIS later of the town. That is the only area in town that I'm aware of. Others have spoken of knowing where it is, but that's the only recognized area that I'm aware of in town.
So the report says that the development may affect but not likely to adversely affect, and
Correct.
thus is that the reason for the protection once Trails End is addressed?
Yes, we will, like I said, they do not think the development of this project would affect that. We will just make sure there's extra measures in place so that does not, there's no, and, there won't be any damage to the sunflowers.
Okay, double check myself here really quick. And in regards to the Carolina Hills splitter too?
Correct. That is my understanding from speaking with the applicant as well as the environmental service, the development of this will not adversely affect the hill splitter.
Okay. And is there any steps being taken to protect these species that are on that site?
I don't know the specifics, but that will come along when we get into the preliminary plan design. Typically silt fencing, those types of things we put in place to make sure there's no runoff that would affect the heel splitter.
And I guess that would also go with the sumac as well? I mean, I think those are the three, if memory serves now, those are the three species that may have some issues, so we need to take care of.
Yes, correct.
And as we get through the process and get into environmentals, we'll take care of that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions. The water quality concept plan, you have not received that yet? And
The PCO 19?
I don't know what that's called. It's page 2 of 10 of the agenda packet, item 7. The water quality concept plan is being reviewed by the town, but has not been approved as of the date of this report.
That's correct. We've gone through the initial review. They say it hasn't been tightened up. That would fall under the other staff comments. We believe the concept is good in principle. It's just getting some numbers correct for our engineers.
Well, then this might be the same answer for my second question. The urban open space, the meeting of the intent of the ordinance, you're not real happy with that according to your statement. Can you tell me why?
We got the design while I was on vacation, so I hadn't had a chance to review it. Previous staff member Sierra Salmonek was able to review that, and she said it was in keeping with the ordinance. That's why on my list I was able to scratch that out.
Okay.
So we're in good shape.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, of staff or the applicant? Okay. Mr. Lukakis, or Lukakis, sorry. I apologize.
That's fine.
So please state your name and address again.
So Mike Lukuski, D silent, 11600 Trails End Lane, Huntersville. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my wife and I bought 3 acres right across the street from where the entrance is 21 years ago. And so when we bought that, there was a bunch of trees there. Hurricane Hugo had knocked a bunch of trees down and things like that from a long time ago. So we cleared all the trees, cleared everything by the road. So it's been a soccer field, baseball field, football field in our yard for 20 years. Okay? Recently, we saw the subdivision plans and saw that the entrance is going to be right across from our house. We were hoping that it would be on Asbury Chapel, but because of the sharp curve and all that, that wasn't quite, we weren't quite so fortunate there. But from prior Zoom calls that we had from Mr. Bowman, we did see that they kind of took some of the recommendations or concerns that the Trails End neighbors had, especially was the road condition. This is not a asphalt or paved road, it's a rock and tar type of road. And so we had concerns about this, the traffic, and it used to be a gravel road when we first moved there, all the potholes and things like that. So it appears that they are working with the DOT to upgrade the road, so we're thankful about that. And my wife and I were not opposed to the subdivision at all. But however, the traffic and exiting car lights do pose a concern because it is right across from our house. We have about 300 feet road frontage, and the exit is just almost right across from the house. And so I had met with Mr. Bowman a couple weeks ago to see if he can move the entrance maybe up the road a little bit, across from our garden area, across from the other area there, to see if they can do that for the entrance, because our desire is to not have a berm or trees or shrubs or fence, as part of our yard, because we cleared all that to have an open yard, was our intent. So I just wanted to voice that concern that we're just hoping to see if they can kind of move it just a little bit up the road. We're not opposed to it. I mean, so they've been very, very willing to work with us and things like that, but we're just hoping to just shift the entrance somewhat, I guess, up the road instead of straight across from our house.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions?
Quick
Comment?
question for the applicant.
Sure. Don't go too far.
Hopefully you can answer this and the mayor won't let me, make me not. Can you just tell me what the average home price will be in this development?
I would imagine 350 to 450,000.
Thank you. That's it.
It's not relevant. Mr. Bowman, can you address the...
We have staked that, but Drew's 2 kids had COVID, and so my office has been kind of in lockdown for almost 10 days. So we now have it staked so I can go meet him. I'm not quite sure if we can move it. That's why we came up with the suggestion of planting landscaping across the street, but we're going to go out and take a look at it this week.
Mike, I'm going to call you Mike.
Yeah.
So coming out, do you believe that the headlights will be straight into your house? I mean, as best you can...
I mean, so it's going to literally come, and as they're curved, it's right into the house, yes.
Okay. Any other questions of...
I guess for me, and I apologize, for me, Mr. Bowman, is there I think I heard you correctly, you're not sure if there's an ability to shift it slightly to
Right,
where
we had to get it staked, and it has been staked.
It has
Again,
not been staked.
It has been. We
Oh.
haven't gone out to look at it because everybody had to stay at home except me
Gotcha.
to kind of keep separated. I believe his house is probably at least 100 feet off the road, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not it's off the road. That's why we were hoping that we could do it with landscaping. But I got to see where the cars exit, and we'll look at that this week. I'm not sure if we can move it, but we'll try to do whatever we can to alleviate the problem.
Understanding that, I guess the question that I have is how do we proceed, Mr. Richards? If, for me, I would very much like the applicant to be able to address this. I mean, this area has been wide open for a very long time. It would be good, and it'd be great to be a great neighbor, right? If you didn't have those lights shining into your neighbor's yard,
Understand.
if at all possible.
Sure.
I understand that sometimes that can't happen, but if at all possible, how do you proceed with this?
Sure. Staff is allowed to administratively have minor shifts in road alignments, and we knowing going into this is an exterior. So if it's minor in nature, we can look at doing that administratively. If it becomes major, if it's, a total relocation to the next neighbor's property, then we can just bring a quick amendment back to the board.
Stephen here?
Stephen?
Just out of curiosity.
Well, I have to swear him in.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look and see,
He's allowed
usually
to
you have
call.
to meet the road at
He's
a
a-
90-degree
I,
angle.
right.
There may be a way to.
So, Mr. Bowman, are you want to call Mr. Trott as a witness?
Now, can you answer that question, Stephen? Just to see if we can angle the road a little bit instead of a typical 45.
Let me swear you in. Mr. Trott, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. I believe the board would deem Mr. Trott as a witness and an expert. I hope.
On the exit side, we're going to see where the lights hit once we get out there. We can take a car out there and pull it up into the woods and see where the car. Is there any ability to make it not a 90-degree angle, to shift it just a little bit?
Yes, that's possible. There is some room. There is some room within the design manual regarding the angle. Ideally, it's 90 degrees, but anything 75 to 90 would be acceptable for the town. Trails End Road is a state-maintained road, so they would also have to concur with that as well.
So then my last question is Trails End Road, it is an NCDOT road. What improvements would need to be made on that road for this development?
At this point, we feel pretty sure that we're going to do core samples of the road to see what's there, because they have no idea what's underneath, what that road is. Once we do the core samples, we're going to be either milling or overlaying. It's going to be up to NCDOT, the entire length of the frontage, from Asbury Chapel, where we start, to where our property ends. Not the whole road, but in front of our property. So it's to be determined, because they can't tell us what that surface is without coring it.
Right.
But it'll be a new surface to the edge of our property.
And I would imagine that would also include the widening of?
I would definitely not
No?
hope to widen that road, because if you widen, you increase speed.
This is true.
So.
But as long as two cars can pass?
Oh, it's big enough for two cars to pass
Okay.
easily.
It's been a while since I've been out there, that's why I'm asking.
And it is a dead-end road.
Okay. Any other questions? You have standing, so you can ask anybody else up there a question if you have.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. No other questions? All right. So as I said, parties withstanding have an opportunity to offer rebuttal or closing argument. As a reminder, please focus your response on legal arguments and new or clarifying evidence. Please avoid mere repetition of the evidence we already heard. I think we have gone through that. Does the board have any more questions for the parties or witnesses before we move into deliberation? All right. Hearing Hearing no additional questions or presentation of the relevant facts, board may now begin deliberation. The evidentiary hearing remains open so that the board may ask clarifying questions if needed. As a reminder, this board is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented at the hearing before this board, this proposal meets the applicable standards. If the applicant meets their burden of producing competent material and substantial evidence that the standards in the ordinance will be met, the burden shifts to the other parties opposing the application to show by competent material and substantial evidence that the standards in the ordinance will not be met. If conflicting evidence as to the standard is presented, the board will weigh the evidence and determine which side's evidence is correct. The application as originally submitted was considered by the planning board, and the planning board made a recommendation. Nothing that occurred on the planning board level, sorry guys, including the planning board's recommendation is considered evidence that you can base your decision on. However, the planning board's recommendation may be useful to the board in identifying issues that this board may want to consider and evaluate based upon the evidence that was presented at the hearing before this board. Board members are encouraged to reference the applicable standards and specific evidence in their deliberation so that the staff and I will have enough information to prepare the written decision for the board. Is there a motion regarding this request? Commissioner Walsh.
I'll make a motion. In considering the evidence presented regarding Trails End subdivision sketch plan, the town board finds the application is complete, the sketch plan complies with all applicable requirements, and there is consistency with adopted public plans and policies of the 2040 community plan, including policy LU 2.2, 5.2, 7.1, 10.2, EOS 2.1, 4.3, 8.2, 8.3, 10.1, PS 8.1, T 3.1, 3.2, and 5.3. These decisions are supported by the finding of fact set forth by the staff in the staff report. The town approves with the following. The 2 block length modification requests are approved. The cul-de-sac length modification of 517 feet is approved. NCDOT's requirements for upgrades to Trails End Lane are finalized and shown on the plans. Transportation issues are addressed. Indication that road improvements on Trails End could occur in light of the proximity, and I'll probably get this wrong, Schwinitz Sunflower. Verification from DOT is needed that the alignment of Road B, where it intersects with Asbury Chapel Road, is in the correct location when Asbury Chapel thoroughfare is built. Verification Road B can legally connect with Asbury Chapel Road when the future thoroughfare is built without further approval from anyone with interest in that right-of-way. The town board approves the subdivision sketch plan contingent on all other plan comments are addressed per staff's recommendation.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hines? Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, seeing those not opposed?
Thank you.
Pass. Staff will now draft, and I will authorize, or I will sign a final written decision to reflect the vote and the reasoning for this decision. The written decision will be provided to the applicant and other parties with the right to such notice. Thank you all for attending. All right, we'll go to item 9D. Consider decision on request by Palillo Holdings LLC for the Statesville Road mixed-use rezoning R20-04 regarding phasing of TIA-related improvements. Mr. Trott, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah. I did.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I have to read that 7 pages. I'm thirsty.
Oh, you didn't tell me you were gonna get to him.
Gotcha. So, good evening. Before you tonight have a TIA phasing request for a rezoning request that was approved earlier this calendar year. Just as a reminder, the Statesville mixed-use development is one that's bordered by I-77 to the west, US 21 to the east, Alexandriana to the south, and Hambright Road to the north, just for a reminder. The site plan options that were approved, there was a main site plan and then a subsequent alternate plan that was approved. Again, this is just some background information. So as part of the development, they did a TIA for the entire development. There is now a request to phase the TIA and use surplus capacity in that phasing. So phase one of the development is basically everything except the convenience store and gas station in the corner of Hambright and US 21. So they submitted a phase TIA, and what they're asking for consideration is under 14.4.2 of the zoning ordinance, which states modification to the required mitigation, which may be considered by the town board as meeting the intent of the ordinance, is where proposed mitigation at an impacted intersection provides measurable and beneficial surplus capacity above and beyond that required to meet the minimum requirements, such that the surplus capacity may be counted toward credit in the mitigation of other impacted intersections. And so what they have is there's two intersections that are impacted under their phase one, which are Statesville at Hambright and Statesville at Hunstead. And so as part of the Statesville at Hambright improvements, they're going to create surplus capacity. They want to apply to the other intersection. And they have more than plenty, so they're over that. So what they're proposing is a list of improvements to address driveway needs and also create that surplus capacity. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions of staff at this time, or motion? Any questions, motion? Anyone? Bueller?
I guess I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve the phasing of the TIA-related improvements for Palillo Holdings LLC for the Statesville Road mixed-use rezoning R20-04.
Second.
Commissioner Bales? Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, seeing none opposed, that motion passes. Item 9E, consider approving revisions to rules of procedure for the town board. Sloop?
Yes, so we needed to replace some of the 160A references in the rules of procedure with the new 160D references. Also, there was a statute that was enacted after the last draft of the rules that we updated, so that it is now aligned with the statutes. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Bales?
I do not have any questions at this time, but I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the revisions to the rules of procedure for the town board.
Second.
Commissioner Phillips, any discussion? All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, the motion passes. All right, 9F, consider adoption of public comment and public hearing policy. Sloop, motion?
I got a motion.
Commissioner Munger?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Town of Huntersville Board of Commissioners public comment and public hearing policy.
Second. Commissioner Hines? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion passes. All right, consider appointment to the Public Art Commission. Let's see, I'll go maybe with Commissioner Walsh first.
I'd like to nominate, even though I don't like this first name, just kidding,
nice.
Commissioner Phillips, Lance Phillips.
Okay.
I struggle more with the last name.
Commissioner
personally.
Phillips.
No relation, Lance Phillips.
All right, Commissioner Munger.
Alexandra Capeshi.
All right, Commissioner Hines.
Lance Phillips.
Commissioner Boone.
Yeah, after looking at all these resumes, there's only one here that has Huntersville 101 graduate. And we've all been expressing a desire for the citizens to get involved in Huntersville 101, and here's a person that wants to get back involved with the town. So I'm going to recommend Brandy Reese.
And Commissioner Bales.
Lance Phillips.
We have a motion for appointment for Lance Phillips.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make an motion that we appoint Lance Phillips to the Public Art Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? See none opposed? Thank you all for applying. Next item is 9H, consider approving of Lake Norman Kiwanis mural for Veterans Park bathroom. So this is under my category, or is there going to be some additional help up here, Ms. Houck? So I'll just give you a little background, and if, you know, I don't anticipate voting on this, but if I had to vote, I would recuse myself. But so about a year ago, we were approached with my Kiwanis Club was approached with a grant of about $1,500 to do some type of art or beautification. And so we went around to Huntersville in particular and looked at a bunch of buildings, municipal and privately held, and kind of locked in on the Veterans Park bathroom. Somebody picked a really bad paint color. I don't want to say who, but you know, someplace where it would be high visible, would be interactive, it would be something obviously to show what our Kiwanis Club does. And one of our members happens to be a very good artist and offered to work with us on this. So our Kiwanis Club has offered to pay her and for all the supplies with a partnership with the town to go ahead and put this mural up. So that's the background. We've been talking about this for about a year, I guess. So, Ms. Dunn, you're the head of the
Yes.
park PAC, or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Public Art Commission.
We're excited about this partnership with Kiwanis. It gives us an opportunity to highlight a local organization that's doing really good work in Huntersville, and also to give an interactive mural and experience to the children in the community. As you can see from the design, we have Key Club, which is one of the local clubs that Kiwanis does in the schools. There's the I in the word kids is a ruler that the children will be able to stand up against and measure their height and interact, take pictures. The paint can lid is that forms the circle in the D will have handprints of various sizes, allowing the children to compare their hand to the sizes, and each one has a different adjective of what Kiwanis' mission is trying to do with the children of Huntersville and Lake Norman. Finally, the slide is just, it's for play. There's also an opportunity for a child to sit there and pretend that they're coming out of the slide. And of course, the Kiwanis symbol is in the corner, giving the local organization opportunity to hashtag on social media to give them a shout out. In addition, Juliana Kaufman, who's here, is the artist. She is ambitiously painting the background. So this will face the American Legion parking lot. So if you're parking and you're looking towards the band shell there in Veterans Park in the caboose, this will face you, and she's basically taking what you would normally see if that building was gone, and she's painting it behind it. So it's going to be kind of a visual interest that ties in not only the message that Kiwanis helps kids and their community, but also the little world is next to that Huntersville symbol in the back. And it's just a great way to give just a nod to what this organization is doing in our community and beautify a building in the process. Do you have any questions?
Would you like to talk to the artist at all?
Yes.
Mrs.
Juliana?
Kaufman? I think she did a pretty good job, but, yeah.
Thanks. I have been actually a part of the Kiwanis family since I was in high school, I was in Key Club, and I thought it was a really boring idea that my dad made me go to a club meeting. And what it turned out to be one of the game changers for me as far as confidence, the ability to speak, the ability to make friends, the ability to know that I can make a difference in my community. So I went on to become the president of my Circle K, which of course is the collegiate form of Kiwanis. And then I've been a couple different Kiwanis clubs, just based on where I was geographically. So it was an honor to be asked by a Kiwanis club to put a mural up. I've been in Huntersville now for just over 4 years. I have 2 elementary age kiddos that go to Grand Oak. So when they came to me and they said, you know, come up with something, you know, we have this idea, this great idea, and we really want to present what Kiwanis does for the community. I was commissioned with concepts rather than, I told April, rather than nouns. I can paint a noun really well, but I was given concepts to paint leadership and service. And how do you do it, you know, from a mural standpoint that is also engaging? I'm sure y'all have seen the confetti heart wall, you know, where you can come and stand beside it. So I wanted to do that, but I'm trained from a fine art perspective. I paint portraits and landscapes when I have extra time as a mom. So that's what I do. And we wanted to be able to pass forward the mindset of what Kiwanis exhibits, which is, Kiwanis, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but it is the largest international service organization in the world. Key Club touts that same statement for high schoolers. They serve kids. That's the whole concept. I'm sure that y'all are familiar with the Terrific Kids program. You've seen the bumper stickers. April had referred to the different kind of characteristic traits, if you will, that are going to be in the O of the circle part of the D. Those are going to refer back to the word terrific. So the TERRIFIC. Yeah, so I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Commissioner Bales?
Well, I would just like to say, first of all, thank you to Kiwanis for your willingness, right, to want to present art in a unique way. For me, while I love this, my concern with this is, and I would think that we as a board need to sit down and have some additional conversations around it, is the prominence, so much of the Kiwanis. I love that Kiwanis wants to donate a mural. I have concerns, not about Kiwanis, but about the potential for other organizations to say, well, I want to donate a mural, and the community feeling like they may not have the ability to say no. I think some guidelines probably ought to be set to ensure that, again, this is not a knock against your mural. I love your mural, and I love Kiwanis. I really do, so I'm struggling internally.
Thank you.
I'm struggling internally right now. I just want to make sure that we have a policy that is set in a way that where we don't get off the rails as a community. If that makes any sense, I would hate for, you know, other organizations that maybe our community doesn't support but wants to put a mural up. So I think we need to figure out how we address that.
So respectfully, I have a question for you then. you get to vote on it as a board, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. I think the struggle will be picking and choosing, right? Organizations that, as a community, what's the right word? That reflect our values, right? I'm trying to figure it out. This, in my opinion, does. However, do we want, let's say, the NRA to come in and say, well, I want to put a mural in your community, and what does that look like? Or any other organization like that. I think we have to be very careful, and we need to be thoughtful in how we address it. So I'm not saying no to this per se. I'm saying we need to make sure that what we're going to convey moving forward is one that we all can support. Does that make sense?
Well, let me
Go ahead.
have Commissioner Walsh speak.
Yes, I echo some of Commissioner Bale's concerns. Actually, many of us didn't see this till today.
Yeah.
Typically, it's in our agenda packet and not sure what happened, so I'm also a little concerned that we haven't had a chance to digest it. I too, again, Kiwanis is great, but I see Kiwanis, and how do we decide who we're going to promote and not promote? But that sounds right. But I would prefer to defer this decision tonight till we have a chance to understand, if we have a policy in place and when we're doing something like this, where a group is being represented so prominently on a piece of artwork. The other question I have for Ms. Houck is, when we normally commission artwork, what is our process for doing that? I mean, does somebody normally just come up and say, hey, I want to paint something on the side?
Well, this is the first time this has happened. But with the Atrium project, they made a donation, and then we worked with a team from Atrium, did an RFQ for an artist, and then decided on the design together, and then moved forward with that. The Atrium piece, the funfetti that was just revealed last summer, I think it was last summer. If you go out and look around that, the Atrium logo is actually all over that piece as well. And the plaque is in the Atrium teal. So if they do sponsor something, the logos are usually pretty prominent. And even if they sponsor an event, if you look at the title sponsor, their logo is pretty large on our banners.
Yes.
It's a way of saying thank you.
Right.
So I'll just ask the artist, have you ever painted something like this, a mural like this on a building?
No, I haven't.
Can I just add to the discussion? So there's Novant is on this building. Atrium is on that building. Rotary has a clock right in front of our building. Rotary helped with the Veterans Park. So I don't see how there's any difference between what this is and what those pieces are. So in terms of policy, I'm not sure how Rotary put a clock out there other than they paid for it and they offered to pay for it. They said, we'll donate it and we'll have our Rotary clock, which I'm fine with. So anyway, Commissioner Hines?
I think the piece of artwork is fantastic. It took me back to my parents. I remember they went to Disney World when I was a kid, and they came back with a photo very similar to this. All the letters, like B was made out of like little skinny people, and like ours were, every letter was different. So I think that's neat. I think when I first looked at it, I was like, that's brilliant because it looks like it was a mirror, like you're looking back at the caboose. But it makes sense because it's looking through. I kind of understand what Commissioner Boone and Commissioner Walsh are referencing. I think we do need to have an additional conversation.
You didn't say anything yet.
I mean, Commissioner Walsh. What did I say? Okay. I know what he's going to say. No, I don't. I do think we need to have policies like if we're going to allow things like this, which we've done for Rotary, Atrium, and Avant, we don't want it to be open into like, Commissioner Boone said, Bales, excuse me, it's been a long day already. You know, is it NRA, some organization coming from outside of our community is one way that we can look at it. It has to be somebody that's involved in a nonprofit, in our community, you know, those kinds of, I think that's one of the things we need to add and have a conversation about in our policies, which would actually make the cut. You know, they have to serve in our community. So I like the artwork. I think it's very neat. I think it's very applicable to the town. It is very heavy on Kiwanis, which I don't necessarily know if I have a problem with. But I think it's a dialogue we need to continue to have. But I think that this is, because this is not going to be the last time that something this large is going to come up in our community. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, though.
Commissioner Boone, do you actually have something to say?
I do. I gotta look for my name tag here. First of all, full disclosure, I belong to the local Rotary Club. And I want to say this, it looks like one of the better Kiwanis projects that I've seen, John. I want to say thank you to your group for stepping up and doing something for the community. To the artist, you hit it right out of the ballpark. And I'm going to support this project. And if everybody wants to come up with some type of policy, let them do that. But I think we should move on with this right now.
I just want to know if the ruler's going to be scaled to size.
The ruler is going to be scaled to size.
I love that because, like, I have a 2-year-old niece, and I'm like, oh man, we can drag her out here for a couple years, even when she's a teen
Absolutely.
and
That's
doesn't
the
want to be
point.
part of something. That's fun. That's creating a history within a family within our town. Like, you can totally tell, and I mean this in the best way, a mom would come up with these really neat ideas.
And you can put a kid on a dad's shoulders and they can pretend like they're holding the world. Yeah, all those thoughts.
I love that.
Any other comments, questions, motions?
You have a motion. Can you make a motion?
I didn't.
Oh, I thought you did defer.
Well,
I'm going to make a motion, we defer the decision.
Okay, well, there's a motion. Is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Okay.
I need to think through it. This is really the first time we've seen it was today, and I really want to get my mind wrapped around it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on that? Yes.
To our next meeting, and I,
May 3rd.
May 3rd?
May 3rd. I knew that, I was just testing.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments?
I mean, I'll say I'll support that. I think that this is a great art piece that we should move forward with. I think it will end up looking a little different. I mean, if we're setting the precedent, I think what I'm hearing is very heavy on the Kiwanis. You know, if you can soften that tone a little bit, you know, Rotary's got a clock, you know, each room's got their name. You know, I think we can find a balance here to move forward on May 3rd. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Any other?
I have a question.
Can I ask a question? If you're moving to the next meeting, would you like to see another rendering of the art? Because if so, then we need to hit a public art meeting.
That's a good
Actually,
question.
let me amend my motion to whatever the second meeting is in May.
3 plus
please.
14, 17.
What is it? 17th, May 17th.
You good with that, Commissioner Bell? Alright, Commissioner Bowman?
Okay, I just got a question on the motion. Now, when the motion comes back on the 17th, are we going to have a policy of what art we will and will not accept? Is that what we're looking to do here?
I think we need to have a discussion about it. Unfortunately, as I said, I saw this for the first time today, so.
Well, you did see it Wednesday night, didn't you?
Partially, yeah. There wasn't quite like this. This actually looks better than what I saw Wednesday night.
It still needed some coloring.
Yeah.
So my question, Ms. Sloop, is there a policy within the town already about sponsorship? You know, like the Independence is all over Barry Park and...
We do not have a current policy in place that would address the donation of a mural on town-maintained property, no.
No, but do we have anything in our policies about sponsorships?
Not that I'm aware of. I can work with Janet to determine whether or not something has been passed.
Mr. Jaycox, do we not have something about sponsorships?
Yeah, we do have a sign and sponsorship policy. It tells you about what kind of signs can be you see on the ball fields. It
Yeah.
covers that, but I don't think anywhere in there would probably cover something like this. But we can pull that back out and share that with Emily.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I think what we're doing is a little problematic because we didn't have the policy. We are given this piece of art and now we want to create a policy. Should have put the policy before the horse. I mean, we're allowing corporations to donate stuff all over our town. I've never bat an eyelash, but goodness, a nonprofit wants to do something. If they want to cover the bathroom in nothing but nonprofit artwork, I'm down for it because that's helping our community. And then another issue I have is what's the point in having PAC if every time we have a piece of art, we're going to be up here having these discussions? We vote in PAC, they do what they're supposed to do, and I feel like we're disrespecting that they're a committee and we have put them in place as these experts and we're not listening to the experts who are making these decisions. So I'm struggling with that, and I don't know, it's just, if we needed a policy, we should have done it when we were bringing in multi-billion-dollar corporations to throw their name all over our town.
Can I just add, I guess, is it have a mural, have a policy before you have a mural, or you want to change the mural and have the policy? I mean, if I heard that I love it, I like it, it's great, I like the interaction, maybe a couple of things here and there. So does it have to go to the PAC committee or the Public Art Committee, or is it really you want to have a policy before you even do anything like this?
For me, I think that we need to be thoughtful about how we go through this. Mr. Roberts, can you tell us, does Cornelius have any kind of policy around artwork like this?
I can't be honest with you, I can't remember. I know we had a lot of art pieces come up. I'm trying to think if we had any murals. I can't think if we had any murals. We had various artwork, and I know when they were establishing the committee, they were looking at a policy, but I'll be honest with you, I can't remember whether we had one or not.
Okay. So here's my thing, and in my mind, I'm like, For example, what if there was a mural in Huntersville, and it was a Boy Scouts mural, but there had been something, heaven forbid, right? What does that look like? And then it's on town property. I'm just trying to be, making sure that we're thinking through and not getting in a situation where all of a sudden we feel like we need to go out and paint over it.
And I think addressing that could actually be put in a contract after it's approved. We can put all that verbiage in a contract with the Kiwanis Club. I don't know if a policy necessarily has to be created.
And I guess my question is, it's so heavy in the Kiwanis, in the mural, which is great. At the same time, putting a plaque on the corner with the K, does that not do the same thing without the heavy emphasis on Kiwanis? Just curious.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Please, that'd be great.
So there's lots of different branches to Kiwanis.
Okay.
So there's, I can go into it. The Kiwanis itself, right? And then you have the Action Club, which is folks, typically they are adults who are developmentally challenged.
Okay.
And then you have, starting from elementary school, you have builders clubs in middle school, you have key clubs in high school, and then you have Circle K in college. We were trying to actually bring in Key Club as well, so that they didn't feel slighted, because everything else seemed Elementary. I don't know how else to say it. So we were trying to figure out a way that a key clubber could proudly stand in front of the mural and be proud of it. Now, I will say this, if that is your concern, you know, where it's this Kiwanis heavy feel, you know, I think Tracy already said it, but Kiwanis is paying for it, right? And it's that concept of Kiwanis that we're hoping to get across so that people want to be a Kiwanian, right? Or want to be a key clubber, or want to have, you know, the ability to bring home that bumper sticker from elementary school that they got nominated, you know, to be a terrific kid. If it means that I need to soften it, I would absolutely start at the K. Right? So I could come up with some other expression of a K. I'm offering that out there as an idea. I would also like to run it by the Kiwanis Club, who is paying for this. But that would be where I would start. And if you wanted to see a sketch for the next meeting, then that would be what I would alter, is the K. I would not change anything else.
Okay,
Is that good? Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay.
It does.
Commissioner Munger?
Probably a question for Emily. In terms of, I guess, I feel like something unspoken here was, we approve this, we say, you know, go ahead and do this. I mean, we have, to the mayor's point, we have a clock with Rotary Club on it, Novant and various other sponsors. If someone came along at some later date and said, hey, we want to give you this free artwork and we found it objectionable for whatever reason, has that ship already sailed? Have we already put ourselves into legal jeopardy in terms of being able to say no on that? And if not, can we put a policy in place at any point in time before that application comes before us that would reduce our legal jeopardy? I know someone can sue for any given reason, really, but mitigating some of that jeopardy.
You can put a policy in place regarding donations or, you know, artwork at any time that you would like to put the policy in place. You know, it's not to say that there might not be questionable, why did you allow the clock, or why did you allow a previous piece of art, but you are able to enact a policy at any time. You know, you always, in the policy, to head off what I believe you're referring to, would want to reserve a right of refusal in that policy to remove that question.
So I think to the mayor's point, and I think this is just kind of clarification of what you said, I don't believe we actually need to have a policy in place before we approve this artwork. I think part of the consternation we might have, we just saw this today. It's a bit to take in. It's fabulous artwork. I don't see a big reason for changing it overall. I'd just like to digest it all. But to your question, I think we can judge this artwork on its merits alone and deal with the policy at a point later.
So then, you were on the May 17th, could you be back to May 3rd then? Or do you want it still on May 17th?
I'd rather keep it at May 17th, so they have, if she's going to make some changes, that the art committee see it.
Okay.
And I would say, and thank you for that recommendation, that offer with the K. I mean, when I look at this, I see the art, but I also see Kiwanis everywhere. And, you know, probably it's just something with that K. I'd love to see those renderings. I mean, you know, Kiwanis serves kids in their community. I'm just thinking my son is an Eagle Scout from Troop 19. So Boy Scouts came in and did something that was just like Boy Scouts all over the place. It's focusing more on the Boy Scouts, not the art. So, you know, just my personal opinion, I mean, I'd be okay approving it tonight if you had a different option for the K, and then just had the circle K down the bottom, because that's who donated the art. You know, we're recognizing Kiwanis. And then remove the hashtag, which I can't read, Lake Norman Kiwanis Club, and the stuff upstairs. So people could focus on the art, and if they wanted to see who it was, the plaque is the circle K. So, when I mean soften it up, that's kind of what I envision right now.
And I would agree with Commissioner Hines. In fact, you said, hey, when they see it, they want them to be a part of Kiwanis. And I think it should be, I mean, the whole idea of art is for, in my opinion, for the sake of the art and the focus on the art, not on the, oh, we're advertising for the Boy Scouts or Kiwanis or whatever. The first thing I should see is, oh, that's really cool. Oh, I see Kiwanis. In some way it was a part of this, but not the advertising for Kiwanis, if that makes sense. I know April's looking at me going, you're not an artist. I can hear it from here.
I don't want to say.
Which I admit.
I don't want to say who made the recommendation on the hashtag.
And I think I'd like just to add a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of like if NRA were to sponsor something, had their NRA logo, and then they spelled out the word guns with neat little art like this. That's the challenge.
I would hope that wouldn't make it past the
I know,
Public Art Commission
however,
first.
but this board is looking globally at the town of Huntersville and thinking about every possibility. And I think that's, I think what you're hearing is we all like this.
Yeah.
We just are thinking globally of what happens next when someone else comes in that isn't about kids and crayons and cool rulers. So I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so any other discussion? We have a motion. I forgot who made the second.
Ms. Bales.
So all of those in favor of postponing the decision on the Kiwanis mural until the May 17th board meeting? All those opposed? All right, well, we'll see you back on the 17th. Thank you. Thank you for all your efforts. I'm just going to go to Cornelius with my next one. Item 9I, consider adopting resolution to accept the North Carolina DOT TIP U5908 Main Street Upgrades Construction Contract. You don't look like Miss. I practiced her name the whole day, too.
Sorry to disappoint.
Mastro Francesco. Mr. Fox, how are you?
Good evening. Yeah, I'm good. I hope you guys are. On March 26th, we received bids at long last, finally. Looks like Main Street will be moving forward. We received bids at this location. The lowest responsible bidder was Blythe Construction at just over $15,100,000. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Munger?
I have a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to accept NC.TIP #U-5908 Main Street Upgrades Construction Contract pending NC.TIP review and concurrence.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Boone? Any discussion? All those in favor of moving forward from Main Street? All right, seeing none opposed. Now we'll go to 9J, consider approving budget amendment, increasing the price associated for the Main Street project by 8.192, oh my God, $8,192,932, using $3,892,000 and oh my gosh, $3,892. I'm not even reading this right. $3,892,932 of general fund balance, and fortunately $4.3 million of Charlotte Water. I'm not used to these big numbers. I only deal with them every day, but.
Well, basically, you took my thunder because I was going to read this exact paragraph. But basically, what this will do by increasing the fund or decreasing the fund balance by the 3.8, it will allow me to be able to sign the contract that Stephen just talked about. And then remember, and when we did this, we're only increasing, as you can see on the revenue side, we're not doing anything with 2016 bonds or 2020 bonds. Those stay the same. We're increasing the grant fund, the direct attributable, by 50, which gets us to what the state said they would give us. And then we're just increasing the fund balance by decreasing the fund balance, I guess, by 3.8. And then remember that the Charlotte Water is just, if we spend 4.3, then they'll give us back 4.3. So that's why that number looks so large to begin with, but more than half of it is the Charlotte Water. So Does anybody have any questions on the funding sources?
Commissioner Munger?
I have a motion.
Wow, okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget amendment increasing the price associated for the Main Street project by $8,192,932 using $3,892,932 of general fund balance and $4.3 million from Charlotte Water.
I'll second that, and you did a much better job than the mayor.
Yeah, right.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Seeing none opposed? Look forward to getting that rolling.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Any closing comments? Commissioner Munger?
Since during the quasi-judicial, I wasn't allowed to really ask some questions. Just had something I ran across, and I apologize for asking the question about the average home price. During that, but I obviously, during quasi-judicial, we're not allowed to ask questions of anyone regarding it. So one of the things I tried to do is try and figure out, I always point in our packets to a CMS one-pager. When we have a new development that comes in front of us, CMS gives us this sheet that says the number of new students that a development will add to the school system. In this case, 41 students, 31 of which will go to 2 schools that are already over capacity. And CMS said total estimated capital cost providing additional school capacity for these new developments is $1.204 million. So what I tried to do is I tried to understand, we have 81 houses coming into this development. How long will it take for those property taxes to generate that $1.204 million? So what I did is I took a valuation of $500,000 per house. And let's just assume it maintains a constant value of $500,000, which I know suspends belief a little bit, but you'll have to carry it along with me. 81 houses, $500,000 per house, gives us $40.5 million. Mecklenburg County tax is 0.6169 per 100. If I multiply that out, 40.5 million times that number, I get $249,844.50. Of that, the percent of Mecklenburg County tax total, 1.9 billion, that they allocate to CMS, 529.9 million, divide that out, and I end up with a percentage of 27.88947, and so on. If I take that total tax collected, multiply it by the percent that goes to CMS, 249,844 times the 27.8889, I end up with $69,680.32. Finally, if I take the original capital cost, 1.2, and divide it by this number, the 69,680, I end up with 17.28, my apologies. Meaning it'll take 17.28 years for this development to pay for the capital costs required to support only the students that are brought to CMS by this development. This is why I stress this one-sheeter. I don't think people fully understand that yes, eventually the property taxes generated by those houses will pay for the new schools that they need. We're talking 17.28 years. That essentially means someone who moves into one of those houses with a newborn might be lucky to get a new school for that student by the time they're a senior in high school. And that's why it just drives me nuts. We just need to fund our schools better. That's my stump.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, it is.
Any other comments? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Any question? All those in favor?
We're doing the pre-meeting?
Yep.
Take we taking a minor break?
5-minute break. Yep.
Indeed.
Come on back.
How much more did you have left? I don't have your
Lance, you
tattooed on my heart.
You were the man.
get Brian up here.
Personnel.
We got a couple more slides to talk about. You'll see some of this in the manager's recommended budget, so we wanted to kind of run this by you and show you where we are so far with what's coming down the pike and get any feedback. Go ahead, Jay.
So the next topic we plan to cover is personnel, and specifically which new positions do we have currently in the budget. Just by way of reminder, we put 7 new non-sworn positions in the PD budget at the most recent, at the March 16th meeting. In addition to those 7 positions, there are 2 new positions. You've heard mentioned perhaps the planner 1 position that we plan to fund effective July 1. There is a public information officer position that we plan to fund. And there are, so we've, Kevin Fox, Patty and I have put pen to paper about how we most efficiently get sidewalks accomplished in this town. And there is an opportunity for us to have a sidewalk crew. And while we're dedicated to pursuing that 4-person sidewalk crew, we suspect it would take a little while to find those 4 positions. So while we're dedicated to doing it, we're funding it effective January 1st of the new fiscal year because we believe it will take some time to find those positions. Now, we've asked Kevin, don't wait till January 1 to start advertising. Pretty much after the new fiscal year begins, start looking for those positions so we can find the right people. After the new positions, there are some change to job titles, some of which would involve money, some of which would not. So there's a discussion about changing Bobby's job title, take 2 out of his job title, make him an assistant manager rather than assistant to the manager.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last who, changing whose job title? I'm sorry.
Bobby Williams.
Bobby Williams, okay.
Rather than assistant to the manager, that would be an assistant manager position. That would be changed to salary. There's no change to duties for me. There's a suggestion we change that job title to deputy manager, but because there's no change of duties, there's no salary dollars associated with that. There is a job title change proposed in the finance department from accountant to senior accountant, and there is a proposal to change a job title in the parks department. There are 2 positions that we would suggest go full-time from their current part-time position. One is in town hall and one is in the parks department. Technically, this is the way I'd word that in the parks department. There's 60 part-time hours budgeted right now, and so Michael has suggested that we take one of those positions, instead of it being a 30-hour position, make it a 20-hour position, and the other 30-hour position, add the 10 hours from the previous position to it, make that a full-time position. There's also, you heard Stephen mention earlier about workload in land development. So there's a position in engineering that historically has been charged 100% to the general fund. Based on workload in land development, there's a suggestion that we split that position and charge it more reflective of their duties to land development. Happy to respond to any new position or change in positions that you have. Otherwise, we'll move on.
One of the 4 people on the staff that are going to be on the sidewalk crew, is one of those going to be a team leader, or will that mean?
So it would be 1 crew leader, 1 motor equipment operator, and 2 utility workers.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Commissioner?
I do. So, Mr. Trott asked for, could you state that again, what he asked for?
It's not a change to his head count, so we're hiring no new positions in engineering, but rather there's an engineering position that we charge 100% to the general fund heretofore, but he's doing so much land development work, we believe it's more reflective of what the task that he's doing, that we would split those duties between the general fund and land development. It will be coded 50% to the general fund and 50% to land development.
I just know how busy our department heads are, and I mean, they're very short-staffed. I mean, I appreciate every director and what they've asked for. I know Mr. Trott probably could use another plan reviewer, so I think we should consider re-looking at some of our departments and what they really actually need to really reduce the workload, and I think at the end of the day, it will help speed up some of these processes and free up other things as well. So
I should interpret what you're saying then as you'd consider adding an additional engineering position?
Absolutely, yes. I'll also like to look at planning staff and see what we can do there to there as well?
In addition to the one planner.
Yes.
Yeah, because what happens is when, you know, inevitably you lose people. We're stretched so thin right now, you lose somebody and it very negatively impacts operations.
And I think from my perspective, re-ask every department head, really, what is it you need and what can we do to help you? Because, I mean, I've said this before, we used to be when I moved here, we were Mayberry. Now we're big time, and I think we need to really start acting like it. I mean, I think we need to really ramp up. I mean, we've had the same, I think, almost the same type staff numbers ever since I can remember here in our town. And our workload has just significantly increased, so I think I would really like to see us add positions.
Commissioner Bowen? Mr. Roberts, when you met with the directors, did they come out with the same head count, or did you reduce it after speaking with them?
I don't think I reduced any on head count. Actually, the one thing I asked staff is, look, I can't, if you don't tell me, I can't help you. So if you don't tell me you want 6 people, I can't go ask, I'm not going to go ask for 6 people. So, no, I'm pretty clear on, I don't know what previous boards did and, what they did or what previous managers did, but when I meet with department heads, I'm going to fight for what I think is right. And if they ask for it and it makes sense to me, then I'm going to come to you and ask for it. What you see up here is ultimately what they have asked for. I don't think I cut anything on the staff. I did actually, I think with planning, say, look, especially when you're in a bind like now with awesome people, et cetera, why don't we put some money in there for outside consultings to, if you need to, bring some money in to help, not make the burden so tough right now, especially when you're down. So I actually pushed a little bit more to them.
It appears to me that we're an IPO officer, we're getting another deputy, and it seems like we're putting a lot of people up front on almost like the command staff, but the people down here who do the work. Commissioner Hines, I think, said it best that they're pretty stretched thin, and as Commissioner Walt said, if somebody goes down, all that work falls on somebody else.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we'll probably, we'll talk, I don't know if Jack's here, but we'll be talking about is also cross-training within the planning department, not silo off in the individual, I'm commercial, I'm subdivision. I think they're having to do some of that now, obviously with some folks leaving, but to make sure folks are more cross-trained across the department so that if we lose a person, it may not be as impactful. But I'm all for going back to them and saying, hey, are you sure this is what you need? Because I'm going to be supportive of department heads. If they make the case, I'm going to come fight for them, if that makes sense.
Can I steal a little thunder off of a future slide? There's the next slide or the slide after, we talk about we have some turnover associated with some lower paid positions. So maybe what we need to do is an attempt to hire people with a little bit more skills. People with more skills are probably going to need to be hired a little closer to midpoint. So there is one position where we put in some additional dollars so that for a vacancy we can get a little bit more experience.
For example, I guess yesterday or day before, I can't remember, maybe not yesterday, today's Monday. Either last week or earlier today, the one thing I said is we're down a planner. I feel pretty confident the board's going to approve this planner 1. We got 4 people you're interviewing right now. If you see 2 in it that can go, let's go right now. We've got some leftover dollars. Let's go ahead and hire them. By the time you hire them and get them in, we'll already be here. So I just said do it because I figured you would approve that because the permit's up so high. So we're trying to bring them in as quick as we can.
So I have a question. Is it more important to have a public information officer or another planner or another person in engineering? Because is the PIO a full-time job?
Yeah, that,
compared to some of these others?
I figured we'd get some questions on that. So my recommendation was to move Bobby from a assistant to the manager. He's doing some PIO stuff, and he does a wonderful job, much better than I can do. I know that. But as we're taking on more of these projects, Bobby's going to be managing some of these projects. He's doing a lot of that now, less PIO. As all these projects start to come out of the ground, You know, we really hadn't had a ton of projects come out of the ground. Had more Parks and Rec projects, but Main Street, Hallbrook, if you move forward, Town Hall, all of those type projects started to come out of the ground. 21, you know, a lot of these projects are going to start happening in June, July. Someone pumping out that information, you know, letting the businesses know, like I think you'd say, you know, make sure we're letting the businesses know about these. Colonial Pipeline, yes, Bobby's done a wonderful job, but can we do more as we continue to push out these projects to make that person, him or her, really focus on getting that out. That person probably, Bobby trains them to start to do more of the say it, Bobby, we just had it, oh God. Yes, 101, I shouldn't say it. But basically that person take over the 101 programs, and if we can do more of those. So that's what I anticipate. Public Information Officer pumping out a lot more information than what we're doing.
I will tell you, I've wished we'd had a PIO for years, and absolutely get behind that. You know, you just mentioned Gilead in 21 Main Street. There's going to be a lot of communication that needs to go. And I see the chief back there, but even across different organizations to speak with a single voice.
I will tell you, it is very poorly received when a business asks you about, hey, I understand there's some earth moving equipment out by 21 in Gilead now. What's going on that project? I'm like, well, it's not our project. We can call DOT and find out for you. So we try to deliver better customer service than just, I don't know, it's not our project. Here's the telephone number to DOT. So there will be a lot associated. There will be a lot of questions with businesses associated with so much construction going on in this town that we have a passion for that, supporting those businesses during this time.
Could we see like a PIO like job mock-up before we vote for something like this? Or because PIO to some people in their head, it really just means social media content manager, and that way we can have it listed out in black and white what the duties truly are.
Yeah, we've kind of pushed this since I've been here. I think we've part-time. We started off with full-time. I won't mention any names. And didn't quite work out as well as we like. Then we sort of wrapped it. I'm gonna say under Bobby, and he's done a great job. But we can do a lot more. So it's getting back to now that we've got a ton of projects coming out of the ground. I'm very supportive of having someone take care of that kind of stuff and just push out tons of information on it. Because we're gonna start to get calls. When these road projects start rolling, I don't care if it's a DOT project, I don't care if it's a town project, I promise you we're gonna get calls. Some gonna be happy, probably a lot more sad. And that's the goal, is just pump that out. So that, we can definitely get you that information, what that sort of description and title looks like.
All right. So I guess the conclusion is you've put a lot of thought in this. This is what you think we need. This is what staff thinks we need, but maybe if there's an opportunity here or there, it might be another one or two hires or what have you, something.
Possibly. I'll go back and talk to planning again, and I'll talk to engineering again and see if we're there, or see if we do some different things. But this is what came out of the pipeline with those original discussions.
You know, you're threading the needle, really. You're trying to find the balance, right? Because when things are hot, planning and engineers, they're rocking and rolling. And if and when the economy slows down, we want to make sure that we're not so top-heavy, staff-heavy, that we're not having then to turn around and lay people off. So you are trying to find a balance there, and I just want to say I appreciate all the work that you all are doing, that every single staff member is doing to make, this town continue to move forward. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Boone?
Yes, Ms. Roberts, are you suggesting the PIO officer be a town PIO and the police department have their own PIO officer?
Right now, I know that the chief would prefer to have his own PIO, but I know, I'll get it wrong. Assembly, help me out. You'll know that. Odette. I'm going to just say Odette. I'll get it wrong, but I know, at one time she was doing it, but, that role right now, I think is, probably, I'll say not filled, or so, may not have the right person in that position right now. So we'll have that conversation of whether this person can, help in that role, but most police departments like to have, a individual doing that that's in that field, because they know that field better than the average person.
Commissioner Bales?
I think that's a great question, Commissioner Boone, and just kind of to follow up, is there the opportunity for, if this PIO position is filled, to work simultaneously, right? To figure out a way to work with Odette in order to get information out.
Yeah, we'll approach that then, address that with the chief. I don't know if he's here or not.
Yeah.
There he is.
I
Come
guess
on
my
up.
question, just like anything else, if you're hiring an officer or a sergeant, what is their role? Is there a PIO person that is a former officer, sergeant? That would be better?
You mean
Or
for-
somebody that's a citizen, just like we hired these 7 people, or hopefully to hire 7 people. I mean, do we want our officers doing these type of things?
I'd say no, but I'll let
Right.
the chief, comment.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. Odette is no longer our PIO. She got promoted. So she is a patrol sergeant now. She might be working tonight. But it's vacant, and we've got it assigned to our administrative division now, kind of whoever's available. But we put more checks and balances in for some of the things we do because they don't have experience doing it. But I will tell you, the reason most police departments have their own PIO is because it's very case specific. And they have to know what they can release, what they cannot release. They have to be available at 2 o'clock in the morning. If we have a shooting, they come out, they deal with the media on scene so the officers don't have to deal with them. And they get briefed in at different times during that process. It's very, very specific to law enforcement, and it's very difficult for somebody that's not familiar with it to come in and be the PIO. Right now it's vacant, and we're using sworn officers to do it. But our long-term goal is exactly what you just mentioned, is to try to migrate that away from sworn into civilian. Along with a lot of other things we do. Our quartermaster is a sworn officer. Quartermaster is giving out equipment and stuff. He has to know a lot about that equipment and everything, but that's something we can teach. So there's a lot of things we can do along those lines.
Can we combo them, chief? I guess that's the question.
I think they can work.
If I say you hire a public information officer, and we want that person to, do town stuff also, roads.
I don't think they can do both of them. I really don't. The topics are too different and the time frames are too different. I just think it's too different. It's two completely different roles.
I wouldn't support that.
That's my opinion.
That's like having a city boy go do farm work. You just don't mix the two.
I mean, we can try anything, but I will tell you, I have tried that before. With when I was in Cornelius, we had a town PIO, and we didn't have a PIO down there, and it was very difficult because they didn't know what to do when they got to a crime scene.
And then, Chief, your situation, especially with your social media and stuff, I know from my experiences, people have sent you guys confidential stuff and social media messages, and you don't want just any person having that kind of information. And I mean, I know, I'm just gonna be as vague as I can, a domestic violence situation, they couldn't call on the phone, sometimes they will message social media. So we need to, that's why I get it.
I will tell you, if Anthony has a full-time job for a PIO, and I can't imagine he has, I would say that our PIO is 90% utilized. So I can't imagine one person doing both jobs. I just couldn't. I think they can work together. When we have Huntersville 101, I think we can do better that we promote it as well as the town. And when we have projects that can be promoted to the town, I think we can do better at that. But that's just communication. As far as roles, I don't think one person can do both roles. It's my opinion.
One town, one team, one PIO. Just kidding, chief. Just kidding, chief.
So that's what we got so far, and we'll go back and do a little more homework on that. Next slide. So looking at, if you recall, this current fiscal year, the board gave us direction to, we're going to do COLA and merit every year. Look at COLA and merit every year. COLA's, I think Jackie looked at COLA. COLA's like 1.2%. We put it up here as 1, and then merit we're proposing 2.5. This is, as of today, the latest and greatest from the various town managers of what's being proposed. This may change. Well, it probably will change between now and whenever they adopt a budget, but this is what you see from the various towns that we've contacted. I think emails went around with the various town managers, and then I called a couple today because they were missing. But this is what you see. So here's how we sort of gauge with the surrounding towns. Yes, sir.
Just looking at Concord, 1.5% career development. Can you kind of explain that a little bit? What's happening there?
Did you talk to Concord?
Typically if there's an advanced certificate or an intermediate certificate or for education, that's usually what other places are funding with the career development.
Sounds interesting.
Any other comments on that?
So this is how we gauge against everybody else. And they change as we get further down the line and find more information. They typically don't. This is kind of early for some places to come out with it. A lot of them are kind of hold to the hip, but this is what we got so far. Sorry.
I'm having flashbacks to last year, and I really don't want us to be in the what's COLA, what's not. I would prefer just to be merit focused, like Cornelius, Davidson, and Matthews, because that was traumatic for all involved, I think, last year.
That's up to y'all.
I think we decided last year
That
that
was the
COLA would
policy.
be automatic and that merit would be the variable.
That's it.
Yep.
That was the direction y'all gave me. So
Yep.
that's,
Yep.
Because we didn't want to keep revisiting this every year.
The next slide is where we get to police pay proposal. And Jackie, if you want to start off, and I'll jump in.
So Laura is here, and look, she came in for this discussion, and so we need to acknowledge that. There is methodology to our existing pay ranges. Our existing pay ranges are exactly 6% apart. And a couple of years ago, we incorporated the police department, the sworn positions, within our existing pay bands. One of the ways that we're passionate that we think we can fill some of these positions is by increasing starting pay for our police officers. Well, if we do that, to increase starting pay and leave them within our ranges, if our ranges go up 1% by the amount of the COLA, and then there's 6% between our ranges, then effectively police officers would be getting a 7% raise. And then did that raise include their merit? So are we going to do something else on top of that? And is this, if we believe that it provides us, in a nutshell, additional flexibility to have the sworn ranges not in our ranges. If we come back next year and decide we want PO1 to have a minimum of 46,000, or if we want it to be 48,000, it's a whole lot easier to impact that minimum pay if it's not incorporated in our standardized 6% between the ranges pay bands. And so it's our recommendation at this point to take those sworn positions and give them effectively their own range, so there's more flexibility to be able to change those to whatever we think they need to be that year. And so today, PO1 starting pay is $43,970 and change. And so this proposal is to take that minimum pay for a police officer to $46,500. Now, full disclosure, max pay is we're proposing to be $65,000. That's a decrease, quite frankly, from what our existing ranges are, but the intent for a PO1 is that people stay a PO1 for no more than 5 years, because if you have education, you qualify to go up in the next range within 4 years, but within 5 years, you qualify to go up to a senior police officer, which is a bump in pay of 6%. And so you don't necessarily want to incent people to stay in that lower range for a longer period of time. So PO1 and 2 is a slightly smaller range, though they're both increases from where they currently are. Sergeant is an increase. Now, the max pay, off the top of my head, I don't think those go up very much. This proposal suggests that just like non-sworn, we would increase officer rates of pay the 1% for COLA, and we'd increase officer rates of pay 2.5% for merit. But if you're not at midpoint, so if you're one of those officers that are lower within the range, we'd also request that we fund a 2% market adjustment. So some police officers would qualify for as much as a 5.5% increase. And you see the proposal of the new ranges here. Laura, if I've yacked that up, you help me. Chief, this is not 100% of what you asked for, but it's moving closer that direction. I'll slow down and see if anybody has questions.
So do we think, and maybe this is a question for the chief, that we've moved the needle with this new, we'll call it new program or new pay program? Because I think that's what we're struggling to do, is to not only retain but attract
and I would say that
potential
when the
converts from other departments.
Chief's coming up, but yeah, I'd say we're definitely moving the needle. And I will say that Calza is doing an amazing job bringing folks in the door. I think I've signed 5 to 7 sheets of paper here recently, which means either BLET or laterals coming in. So he's killing it, doing a wonderful job.
I'm sorry, who's doing this?
Calzer.
Oh, Calzer, okay.
Calza, yeah, he's doing an excellent job. So we are getting back on track, moving things forward finally. But this is not what Chief asked for, obviously the full boat, but you know, Chief can't get everything he asked for. But it is moving the needle.
Yeah, Jennifer got promoted as well, and that's why Calzer's now doing recruiting. But
okay.
I appreciate you asking me a question. It might get me fired, but you know. No. As y'all know, when I did my presentation, I told you at the time that even what I asked for, I didn't think was enough to make significant changes. Okay, I used the 8,000 number instead of the 4,000 number, but to get myself and you off the hook on this decision is nobody knows where that needle is. And I want to put that in perspective a little bit. So we have the most amazing support in this community. You see this clover on my shirt right here? I came in today, and this little girl come running out of the playground right out here and said, "Thank you for your service." Gave me a big hug. I just melted right there in front of everybody, you know. I mean, it was significant. And we see that all the time. And I don't want you to think at all that that's not recognized. The problem is none of that goes on these calls with those officers. You know, and what's worse than that is their families watching the news every night. Their families trying to get them to get out of law enforcement. So where is that number? I mean, I can tell you that's why I don't really think we should be trying to compete with everybody else. You know, we're second in the county in pay, but I don't think that's the problem. The problem is the whole industry's changed drastically. You know, I feel like sometimes we're trying to be runner-up at chess, in checkers at a chess game, you know. But y'all have to do things for the whole town, and what he's proposed is very good. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. I don't know whether it's going to move the needle, is my honest answer. But I do think people don't realize exactly the pressures that they're getting from their families and, you know, the difficulty they're having trying to stay in this business. And it's reflected in the thing. We've signed up a lot of people. We still got 12 vacancies, you know, and it's tough right now, and it's tough everywhere. But we're in a great community, and y'all been very supportive, and I appreciate anything you do. Whether I wish it was higher or not, I appreciate everything you do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Buck?
Yes, question for Jackie Huffman. The 2% market adjustment for the officers that are below the mid-range, each percent either up or down costs the town how much money? Do you have that figure?
I'm sorry, would you
How
repeat
many
that
officers
question?
are you talking
So
about?
he was asking what is each percent
Cost the
cost the town? For the officer, I guess.
For officers in particular, I can't say.
Plus or minus $3.
I'd rather look it up and tell you exactly, because I don't want to guess and be wrong, because
What I'm looking for is like a market adjustment of 2%, 2.5, 3, 3.5, what that cost is.
Townwide, Patty, market adjustment, I'm sorry, townwide 1% was how much money? I think townwide, each 1% was 150, and basically, half of the positions are sworn positions, so ballpark, I would say each percent's about 75,000. Now, and then if you take out of that the people who are above midpoint, I'm gonna guess, and I should be mad at myself for getting it wrong, but I think it's 35 to 40,000 for each percent of folks who are below midpoint. That's my guess.
Okay, and my last question is, any of the stimulus money that's coming from the federal government be able to help us on this, as these new salaries?
Yes, we think it may be used for that. We know first responders it can be used for, but how much and how, I'm not sure yet.
The legislation suggests that Treasury will issue guidance on exactly how this could be spent, and I'm hopeful that comes out early May. We'll see.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we ever done market adjustments for any of the other departments?
The town did a pay study, I know, I'm gonna call it March of 2015. Early in Anthony's career, we did in September of 2018 a market adjustment, and that was not exclusively sworn.
It's called the Mercer Report.
Any other towns?
The Mercer Report, that's what it's called.
We did a townwide, looked at all the various positions and looked at the various market adjustments in each department and see what needed to be adjusted, and the board approved that and allowed us to do that.
All right, any other questions, comments on this? Is that it?
Last one. This one may be short, but, so what you have in front of you is the external agencies request in the first, or the agencies, the 10 agencies in the first column. Second column is their request for 2022 and what you funded in 2021 for the various agencies. And then you'll see off to the right, a little box that I probably feel strong about this, that ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, could be used for funding these type agencies. I know there's one agency in there that we're not sure if they will fall under either tourism dollars and or a purpose that we can use them for out of the general fund, which would be Carolina Farm Trust. I think, and I'm putting words in Emily's mouth here, but I think their request is more of startup versus providing maybe a service that, so it may be the way they fill out the application. We just need to probably hone in a little more on those, but they would be the only agency I think Emily looked at, and Jacob, that may not be, we may not be able to fund.
Is that, I know we have some kind of policy in place, and I know I won't get the words right, but for a service the town could otherwise provide, we provide it through a third-party type of thing. Who amongst these does not qualify for that, or doesn't meet that definition, I guess?
I'll take a stab at it. Emily, help me out. I'm going on the wing here. I'd say Hugh Torrance would be more tourism. Ada Jenkins could provide a service. Angels and Sparrows could provide a service. ASC North could probably go in either or.
I forgot what that stood for.
That's
Which one is
arts.
ASC?
Then we do some
Oh,
arts.
that was, we lumped that into tourism when Jacob and I did our analysis, as well as the Raptor Center, and then the Latta Plantation also was tourism. Rural Hill was tourism, but as far as any that we couldn't either put in a tourism box or a public purpose nonprofit from the general fund, the only one that we had question about was the Carolina Farm Trust, and that was because when they gave their presentation, it sounded like they wanted the money more so for startup rather than actually providing a service. And the statutory language says if you are providing a service or a program that the municipality could actually spend dollars on to provide that service or program. And it sounded like at this point they wouldn't be necessarily providing a service or program. It sounded like they needed startup or seed money. So you could potentially give them the money saying this is to be used for XYZ program or something similar once started, but we just needed more information on that because the information that we had now, it sounded like they wouldn't necessarily be using it for a program or service, but rather to be started up.
So would that also apply to ASC North, considering we have a public art commission?
I
We
think
do, we do the service.
ASC North could probably fall in either pot, possibly, but tourism probably a safer bet.
I have to object to that. So ASC North, what is the tourism factor there?
I'm just saying, could it fall on that? It could possibly fall on that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying let's fund them, and that's what we should do. They were one agency, if I recall, when you had, I guess, a previous board, obviously this previous board's decision was to phase them out over so many years. Now, obviously, this is a new board. New board can do whatever they choose. That was not in a, that was not some adopted policy that lasts forever. That's up for a new board to decide.
So, one of the questions that I have for Patty is, years ago, we did fund ASC. Where did those dollars come from? Did those dollars come from tourism, or did they come from the general fund?
General fund.
General fund, not tourism.
That's what I thought.
And there were a couple that we felt could come out of either box based on what it was that they were doing. We were just more so looking for one that couldn't be funded out of either box,
I think,
tourism and or general.
I think like the mayor, I too have concerns about ASC. The reason we stopped funding them in the beginning was that we were giving them money and they were just giving it back. It was as if we took money from the right hand, put it in the left hand, and I mean, it didn't make as much sense in my mind, giving them funds when we could just budget for it within our own budget and give it to Parks and Rec to do art and culture.
Quick question on a follow-up on that. If I remember as well, the ASC funds, we'd give them money and they would give us money back. Did they give us more back than we gave them? Was there?
No. I have notes from our last meeting.
Yeah.
The last time we invested, it was a substantial amount, and they only returned back like 19,000 in Huntersville, so we didn't get everything back.
So we like gave them 25, they got 19 back?
Yeah, something like, no, it wasn't like that,
I don't think we ever gave that much. I think it was like $5,000.
$5,000.
And we got 5,000 back for
but
Hello
the
Hunters.
whole, like, the cumulative, this is my ADHD notes, sorry. It
No,
was,
I appreciate it, I really do. I'm just trying to understand, if we're getting more back, this sounds good. If we're getting less back?
It probably varies over years. Some years you probably get more back, other years not, depending on where they may ship their funds to agencies within your town. So you got to decide, is that beneficial to the town? So if they gave funds to the Raptor Center or whatever, as part of that, that's in your town. But so those are things you have to look at. They give to other outside agencies that provide services in your town. So I'm saying probably some years yes, maybe some years no.
And just to also clarify, now that like last year we didn't give them anything, they are not giving us anything as a result.
They gave something this last go around, didn't Michael?
Well, they got a grant. We got a grant.
Grant. Michael's probably got all this memorized.
Changes every year. But, so this year, they got a different pot of money, meaning those agencies who didn't give money, we're not in the priority pot of grant money. So when we apply this year, we're like second in line from the other agencies, is what we've been told. So this upcoming year, we're not sure if we'll get
So
it.
because we haven't given them money, we moved into the secondary pot.
Yeah, that's what we're told.
All right.
But if we just keep our money, we don't have to worry about it.
Correct. Amen.
well, and with regards to that, at least if we keep it local and keep it in our town, you don't have this other conglomerate telling Huntersville what we need to do art-wise. And with our, because ASC also covers like historical too and science. I don't like us having a lot of say, but I think if we have an outside agency versus our in-house agencies, I want in-house having a say within our community and what we're gonna do.
Okay, so what you're proposing is that we wait until we see what the American Rescue Plan Act?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, see, I think dollars can be obviously used for this, but if they're, you know, as you're thinking through this, if there's 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, you're saying absolutely not, it just makes it easy as we go through. But if you want to wait and tackle that with ARPA funds, I'm good
Well,
either way.
So I'll just give my 2 cents, you know, so, you know, obviously I was fairly involved with trying to tighten up our policy. And, you know, we funded things that we thought were tourism and Ada Jenkins. However, it's fairly clear to me that everything I've read from the ARPA, that there's an intent there for the municipality to give money to charities. I mean, it's pretty simple. And if you look at it, you're going to get $8.5 million this year, next year, plus or minus, and you're going to have to follow the rules, the intent, hopefully more clarified in the next 30 days, and you don't want to not do something that would be a red flag so that they're coming back to you and saying, hey, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. I know you funded over here, but we want the money back or something like that. So I would probably say that of all years, if you can use the ARPA for a number of these other charities, which I've personally given to all of these, except for ASC North. So you probably should give some of this money to these charities. I mean, whether you agree with it or not, the money's coming here, so you got to.
Quick question also, sorry. Are we restricted in terms of giving money to the amount that they've asked for, or can we go above and beyond that?
I can go less, you can go more.
Less or more.
Thanks.
So are we in agreement to wait for the ARPA?
Yes.
Yeah, seems good.
Okay, all right, and then we'll make final decisions on that.
All right, thank you. Oh, let me ask you this then, do you want or need a special meeting to talk about other things of the budget? I think we need to work a little more on land development fees, but I think I've got pretty good direction. Solid waste fees, we're about there. You tell me if you want a separate meeting. Do you want me to come back at the next pre-meeting to knock out a few of these? I've got good direction for what I need.
I think a pre-meeting, right?
Yeah,
prefer
I-
pre-meeting.
And then
Pre-meeting.
the discussion on contract delegation resolution, do you want that as part of an agenda?
I need direction in terms of a dollar threshold, so we can either try to quickly discuss it now or move it to the next pre-meeting.
Does anybody care to just deal with this right now?
No, I don't. Let's just knock it out.
Get it done.
No, Lance has class soon, so we're.
We got 45 minutes. All good.
So I'll make this short and sweet. Essentially, we need to get a contract delegation in place to delegate authority for Anthony to be able to delegate contracts below whatever dollar threshold amount that you all decide to set. The reason being is if we don't have a delegation in place, then technically every contract needs to come to the board regardless of dollar amount. And the statutes allow delegation for most all contracts. There are a few exceptions to that. You cannot delegate approval of formal bid range construction and repair contracts. Those are at the 500,000 plus range. And you also can't delegate approval of a sole source or piggyback type contract. So we've carved out an exception in the draft that Jacob and I worked on. We took the draft from Charlotte. They set their delegation threshold at 500,000. We tried to take the mid-range, which is about 300,000. We thought that it made the most sense to set 300,000 across the board regardless of the contract type. Also, we made sure to put in language saying unless otherwise required by law. So of course, that takes care of it. If it's in the formal bid range, you're still gonna have to approve it. I wanted to add too that regardless of the dollar threshold that you decide to put in the delegation, it doesn't take away the need to still bid the contract. So if it's a formal bid process, we still have to follow the formal bid process. If it's informal, we still have to do informal bidding as well. It just means that while that bidding is going to take place, if it's below the dollar threshold that you all decide to delegate, it wouldn't necessarily have to come back to you all for approval.
Commissioner Boone? Jackie Huffman, I got a question. How many $300,000 contracts do we sign in a year? I mean, are we talking 10, 20, 30?
My guess is 5 or fewer. They're very 300,000 is few and far between. There's not
Okay.
many.
I'd go along with the 300,000 as long as we had some type of period of 18 to 24 months where we can circle back to see how this is working and go from there.
I'm good with 300,000.
I would agree with Commissioner Boone. The only other thing that I would add, I do have a little bit of question if it's not just the town manager, we're saying town manager, deputy, or assistant. I mean, I get needing backup. I'm trying to figure out how comfortable I feel with 3 individuals.
And that's something that we could easily change. We had tweaked that language slightly in anticipation if any titles were changed based on the previous slides that you all saw with regards to deputy or assistant manager. But that's something that we could easily change that language.
Is there time to wait until there's kind of the head nod, or is there the head nod for those changes in, for the budget?
And I'm sorry, what were the 3 people or 3 titles that would be able to do this?
Assistant, deputy, and manager, and I would be good cutting it back. The main thing is just make sure too, if I'm in Aruba, if something needs to be signed.
You
That's all.
and Jackie being gone at the same time, that's just.
I'd probably be more comfortable with 2.
Yes, and I'm good with that. The main thing is make sure you have a backup, that's all. However that's written, I'm good with that, that's all.
And you'll provide us a list of contracts that you've signed over $300,000 on a periodic basis?
Commissioner Munger?
So I'm probably in the minority here, I guess. When I'm looking at the 3 cities that jump out at me are Concord, Winston-Salem, and Mooresville, which some of the other ones seem like much larger cities. And I get 100K, 100K, and 50K. So at the top of my head, I'm thinking that number should be 100K. What the current policy is anything?
We don't have anything in place right now, and I will say that there was a change to allow for a higher threshold that came out after some of these enacted their delegations. So that's why you see some of them with a lower threshold. Charlotte had adopted their $500,000 threshold when there was a change to let it go up to that amount. So I think some of these, the reason that you're seeing them much lower is because that change took place after to allow for a higher threshold.
I don't know, I mean, in my head, 0 to 300K is really fast. But that's just me.
You want to do over 3 years, 4 years?
Or 6 or 7, come on.
Well, I guess the other question is just making sure that the board is aware of of contracts. Yes, maybe, you're getting the authority to enact, but we still need to know what's happening. And I don't know how or if it should be written in there, but we should know, kind of what's going on.
And we
that's
could
important.
create a summary, and that could either be a permanent summary on an ongoing basis, or it could be the first 3 to 6 months, just to see how the process is going, and you could reevaluate, as Commissioner Boone said, to determine if you wanted to change the dollar thresholds. But I can get a draft together with the suggested edits as far as the deputy manager and the town manager, and then I can also provide some suggested language as far as the summary, and then we'll put it as a formal board action, a delegation on the next board meeting if you all are okay with that once I've sent out the updated edits.
So we
Just
chatted
have a
with-
question.
We chatted with some of you all about how you'd like to see the monthly financial statements change, and my recollection is quarterly, Patty's sending you a copy of what purchase orders are outstanding. And purchase orders are required for goods purchased over, at a value over $1,000. So quarterly, you're getting a pretty good look at what's going on for the purchase of goods, not necessarily services, although many of the department heads request a purchase order for service just so they don't spend the money on a different project. Yes, ma'am.
Could we not put something in there about finding, or being informed prior to the signing? Because that way, I mean, I hope he never leaves, but, you know, Anthony may not always be the town manager. Jackie may win the lottery, take off, and then we get stuck with, you know, who knows what. So that way, at least if we prior know, as we as a board look at it, say, oh shoot, let's pause, we have that little bit of wiggle room before the ink dries. I would like to give us that kind of maybe a grace period. And then as we get more comfortable with it, and we ensure Anthony never leaves, then, you know, make it more permanent.
I guess my only concern about that is, I mean, I think that's the idea to get us, I mean, every contract comes through, you know, then there's questions. Well, what's this about? And, you know, oh, we find out we're ordering toilet paper or something. I just think
Well, he said it's only like 5 contracts a year, that,
well, she said at 300,000, so.
yeah,
What happens at one at 290,000?
it's not the threshold. I mean,
So, do you want to answer that question? Because I have a question too.
So we can either do it as a summary of contracts that have been approved, as was suggested, or we could try to work with the department heads to get a summary of upcoming contracts that they, you know, that they anticipate approving. But I guess I would just say that the goal is to try to increase efficiency,
Streamline,
essentially.
yeah.
And so, you know, we would want to make whatever you guys feel, you know, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, but we are trying to increase efficiency here and make sure that if like an emergency situation came up, we would be able to act. For example, we had a tree that was about to fall on someone's property the other day, and it was an emergency type situation. We really needed to take action. Technically, in those situations, that would need to come back before the board without a delegation in place. So those are just things to consider, but we are happy to try to tweak the language, make some consideration there for an advance notice.
well, like, Chief's not here, but the police department's really good, even just giving us an hour ahead, sometimes heads up, over announcements that are gonna hit the public. That's why, I mean, if you're in an emergency situation, you just text to say, I'm signing this contract. I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, wanna call a special meeting over a tree falling and, you know, just having that, there's exceptions to the rule. So, I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be in this, it doesn't have to be black and white. I mean, we just have that relationship with Anthony, and then God forbid, you know, the worst of the worst happens.
I mean, I know it's not beforehand, but I can always put this stuff in my manager's report too. You know, every 2-3 weeks whenever I send out, here's a contract. Obviously, the money has to be budgeted, so, you know, those are things, they have to meet all the regulations, rules and regulations. The formal bid, informal, all those kind of things still apply. And, I'm not gonna go ahead and approve something that just, you know, doesn't make sense, so.
I mean,
Well,
I look at it this way, we hired you for a reason, you know, get the job done. But, you know, even the chief bought the cameras, but we had to approve the cameras. Now what are we gonna come back and reapprove what we approved?
So that one would be one because it was sole source, you would still have to approve that one.
Right.
So,
Well, I think it kind of goes along with what Commissioner Hines was saying earlier, you know, the town's rocking and rolling, and I get that there's a point where we don't want to hold staff up either in, well, you know, this project's moving, but we have to stop, you know. So I understand why the need is there for it.
I think you could probably solve the problem if you come up with a threshold of contracts over 50,000, between 50 and 300, a summary each month that were issued or something like that. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to know that we spent $1,000 to get the tree removed
Right.
over
No,
time.
like what I'm saying is from like the 300 trigger, I don't
Well,
care.
300 or more, it's coming to you.
Yeah,
It comes to
So,
us, yeah, period.
I would say, you know, if you're comfortable at 50,000 to 300, just send a summary every month or something. Yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And,
good
and then I
compliment.
just, for a point of clarification, and I'm not sure if you use this terminology because it was an old board or whatever, so town manager, and then you said deputy manager?
So that was in anticipation.
Do we have a title that's called deputy manager now?
That was
there?
in anticipation
Okay.
of Jackie's potential
Okay, because
change.
she was mumbling through the mask, and I don't know who was getting what titles and all, and
So one of the proposed changes, Mayor, is to make
Right.
Jackie deputy, no pay related to that, Bobby assistant.
Oh, I heard her say
Okay.
30% pay rate.
No. So, anyway, I just wanted to make sure I knew who was getting what and all that. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
All right, so we're done with that? and-
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll send out an updated draft to everyone.
I think we're done. Okay. I'm done.
I'm still going.